The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
What's going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown Your Questions, episode 131. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
Back in action. Also, I would like to. I was just thinking at the same time as the song. Oh, am I cutting out?
No, you're fine.
Okay. I was gonna say. I was thinking as the song was playing. I was like, "Wow, Sean Daly." It was good that we got two versions of the song. One for Throwdown and one for Throwdown Your Questions.
By the way, we had two people just drop. I don't know what the hell's going on.
I think Adam was cutting out. So
yeah. All right. So we got Chris Seeley in the house.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
Yo.
And Brett Murdoch.
What's up, everybody?
All right. Hopefully Adam will be back. Brian was in here too. So hey, Adam, you all right, man?
It's you guys are just real janky.
Not everybody's fine, man. It must be your connection, bro.
I don't know.
Hey, listen, to anybody who's watching us, how's the connection? How's that looking?
This is weird.
Let us know, man. And hello, Brian.
Hey guys, I am the villain known as Taserface.
Taserface? What?
All makes sense come next week. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right, fair enough. I guess that's a teaser, you know. But now Adam's got me all like worried. All right, guys in the chat, are we coming in janky? How are we coming in? We coming in good? Oh, it looks good. It sounds good. All right, DC 5841. Thank you, Adam. Maybe something on your end, bro. Okay, so a couple of things here. I'm gonna start doing this every single episode of Throwdown Your Questions from now on, just for those who don't watch the entire episode. By the way, shame on you if you don't do that. Remember, leave us your questions for next week's episode in the comments of this video or on the post over on the coalition. All right. Some of you guys have actually started leaving us comments in the YouTube channel description. So comments. So thank you for that. You're finally listening to us. I would say Twitter, but Twitter becomes kind of crazy. We may lose some of those questions. So yeah, we're gonna relegate you to those two places. YouTube comments when the episode finishes. Don't ask them now. And then over on the coalition, as you've always done. But those will be answered, next week. And also on that, we're gonna have to tweak things a little bit. I was telling the fellas this beforehand, right? We're becoming a little bit victims of our own success. We've got so many people like asking us questions for the show because obviously we have way more fucking subscribers that we're gonna start limiting everybody to 2 questions instead of 3. The reason for that is because that way we accommodate everybody who asks us questions who can't watch us live, and we accommodate the guys who are watching us live. That way we answer everybody's questions, and we don't have to do 3 or 4 hour shows every week because that's just crazy. We got shit to do, man. This is a Sunday night. We got work in the morning and shit, so we can't be here all night,
Some of us have work in the morning, and some of us just stay until the sun comes. Stay up.
Yeah, it's like you do,
the next day.
Yeah. So yeah, starting next week, we're gonna start doing 2 questions per person. That way we get more of you guys and we get the live guys in there. But also for the live guys for this week, since we got so many fucking questions this week, don't mind the sirens out there. I live in New York. Fucking, we're not gonna answer any of your shit. But if you do ask us stuff, we're gonna save it and then answer it next week. You know what I'm saying? Also, before that, I want to give some shout outs, man. I want to give a big shout out to my man Dio. We were hanging out with him yesterday at the Tribeca Games Festival. I haven't seen him in a while, man. You see him more often than I do.
Yeah, I see. He makes a point to drop by my table every year at New York Comic Con. So yeah, it was good to see him outside of the thing and actually have a little bit more time to talk to him rather than like, hey man, what's up? How you doing? Love the show, blah, blah. Like that. It was just like, we actually had
we hung out for a couple of hours. Yeah,
we
did.
We
went to Black Burger. That's right down the block. Good man. You actually complimented me on picking that place out. You're like, hey man, it's a good place.
Yeah, it was a good place. I mean, here's the thing. I've lived in New York for so long, but the thing is that I don't go around looking for places to eat. Most of the time I kind of stick to the places I know. I'm not a foodie like a lot of people tend to be.
I mean, I'm not a foodie either. My thing was like this. I'm going like, okay, we're gonna get we need something to eat. I'm like, That place says burger. There you go. That's how much thought I put into it, you know. But it was a good place.
My only gripe with black burgers, man, where's them black burgers?
Yeah. I want to go like, yo, man, let me get your blackest burger.
You ever see those burgers from Japan where they dye the dough black?
Yeah, no, I don't want that
like
shit though. You know,
it's actually really
that
good.
place was a hole in the wall, but it was good. You know, also I want to give a quick shout out to my man Jordan Miner. You know, my editor over at Geek.com. He hung out with us for a bunch of hours too.
It's good to see. Again, it's good to see him not in the in a more relaxed setting rather than the kind of E3 setting. I mean, the Tribeca Games Festival is not like a real festival. It was more like kind of just panels and stuff.
Yeah, we'll get more into that next, on the next show because we got a lot of shit to cover. And also, I want to give a big shout out, and I wish I knew your name, but I want to give out a shout out to that fan of ours. I don't know the guy's name. He bumped into us on I read his question. He was the guy that, Manny, he was a fan of Manny, right? He liked his artwork, but he says he started listening to Throwdown because of Throwdown, because he's like an introverted type of person, so it helped him kind of break out of his shell because he likes the fact that this podcast deliberately sounds like it's just a bunch of dudes hanging out in a conference call just talking. It's not like a traditional podcast. So
that's when I met him at New York Comic Con, he told me the story the same thing that he also wrote, and and he gave me a book it's called the Kojima book. It's like super rare, and he was really nice. I'm like, I at the time I gave him a hug because I know how it's hard it is to kind of say the stuff certain things that you feel very deeply about. So I gave that dude a hug, and I'm like, I gave him a solid 0 book and stuff. I mean, he really nice guy, and he was surprised that I recognized him. Like, hey man, I remember you. I mean, his hair was a lot longer now than it was when we first met, but still, I knew him.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. We finished the panels and all that. So he just comes up to us, this random guy, because I don't know him, and he was like, "Hey, can I get a picture with you guys?" I'm like, "Oh, he must be a fan." And then he told us who he was. I'm like, "Oh, man." He was like, "Yeah, I know you." So that was pretty cool. I wish he didn't run off so fast. I would have hung out with him, like, "Yo, come eat with us, bro."
I would have taken him along too. Hell yeah. So, dude, next time you pop up at a show or something like that, or we're doing a little event or something like that, and you come too, we'll hang out.
Let's fucking do it. All right, man. Let's get into it because we got a lot of. Go ahead, Manny.
Also, I know Ruby doesn't usually listen to our.
Oh yes, Ruby Taki. Got to give her a shout out real quick.
Yes, so this is actually the first time that you got to meet Ruby.
Yeah,
you've seen a lot of her cosplay. For those of you not know, Ruby Taki does Metal Gear cosplay, but she does like cosplay that you wouldn't usually see a woman do.
She basically becomes a Metal Gear. Like that's how I found out. But like, because Manny's like, "Oh, I know this girl who does cosplay," so I'm thinking, it's a girl doing sexy cosplay. No, she dresses up as Metal Gear, as a real Metal Gear.
She was one of the bigger some of the bigger costumes that she's done. She was Blade Wolf from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. She was Metal Gear Rex from Metal Gear Solid.
Crazy.
And she's currently working on Sahelanthropus.
Oh man, that's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, and then the other one that she did was she was actually one of the Skulls women, like the kind of like pale looking ladies, which is also a very difficult costume to do.
Yeah.
And I think I remember she got like in super ultra shape. She's doing like friggin' like MMA shit. I'm like she's like really tiny, little tiny lady. Like, I don't know, maybe 4 foot tall or something like that, really small. And I'm like, Ruby, you could totally kick my ass right now. Because I'm a fat ass artist, and she's like in shape, like super in shape. So, but yeah, the one thing that she was obviously came to see Mr. Kojima, and she got to meet him, she was super excited. She finally got to meet him. She has not like I've met him like 2 times at like E3, and we've met him at E3 and stuff like that. But it was like she was like, "Oh my god!" and she signed her low roar Death Stranding album and stuff like that, and got a picture. So she was super happy about that one.
Awesome. All right, man, let's get into it because we got a lot of shit to cover this week. My man Vishal Thin starts us off here, and I kind of made sure this was the first question because I want to get your guys' thoughts on this because has been raging all throughout the weekend. All right. What are your thoughts on Phil Spencer saying that games like Horizon, Zero Dawn, single player games don't have the same impact that they used to have? So what do you guys make about all that? So basically he was doing an interview, and within it, like, he was basically trying to say that games like that don't have the same impact as a game that has, like, that's multiplayer focus and like is like episodic, because he's trying to say, like, how do we make Xbox games fit more of the Netflix model, right? You get games piecemeal instead of one lump sum. So he's trying to figure out how to make that work, and he's trying to say, like, these bigger games, you don't get as much of a return for the trouble you put into them. Here's the thing, I don't disagree with his general statement. Yeah, like, if you want to make a big game like that, you got to put a lot of work into it. It's going to take a long time, right? But at the same time, I feel those games do have more of a, like, gaming cultural impact than like something like Overwatch does or something. You know what I mean? Like, I know Overwatch has a story, but people don't really talk about the story and stuff.
Well, the story's not in actual
it's
Overwatch. It's all in all the media that's outside of Overwatch.
Yeah, so yeah, obviously even some Xbox fans were upset over those comments, because it suggests that Xbox games moving forward are going to be just episodic or multiplayer focused. They're not going to really do these big grandiose single player games anymore.
The one thing about this is that, I said this, it's like, okay, it's definitely a cost effective prospect, but at the same time, I can see this being something that bites them in the ass, where it's like, okay, let's say for the sake of conversation, they released Halo 7 Episode 1.
Right? Shit.
And Halo 7 Episode 1 does appallingly. It does shit. But what about all the people who actually liked that game? That means that they will not be able to finish off that game. And this has also been proven by, remember, by one of our fans who said, "What about D4?"
Yeah, that actually wasn't one of the fans. That was my man Jeffrey.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that.
But he said it. He was like, "Hey, what about D4? D4 never got finished."
Yeah. So you're gonna have a bunch of essentially for pay demos of games that may or may not do well enough for them to go onto the next episode and the next episode at that. It's the Telltale Games thing. But the thing about the Telltale Games thing is that, it's a formula that actually worked for them. But I mean, I'm sure that there's instances where they didn't finish off a chapter or something. Have they not finished off any of their games?
No, they've done them. But the thing is that they just have these massive delays. Like, they'll do like a month, and next, 3 months later, like even the newest one, The Walking Dead, The New Frontier, they were like, oh, we're releasing 2 episodes at the same time. I don't know why you did that, because then you went 2 months without an episode. And now the last number 4 just came out. But I mean, yeah, those are their problems. Delays, a lot of delays.
So I mean, yeah, I just feel like it's. And I also posed this idea. Me and Tony were having this conversation earlier when this information came out. Was the fact that, like, what if this is just a way for maybe that Microsoft. Well, we don't know what Microsoft is doing, but maybe this is a way for Microsoft to kind of boost their exclusives. Where it's like, okay, we don't have a lot of exclusives at this point in time, but let's say we release these kind of short 2-hour experience episodes to kind of fill in the gaps. To fill out the amount of exclusives that they have. So it's like, okay, we don't want to commit to what was that Dragon game? Dragon something? The one with the one by Platinum?
Scalebound.
Yeah, we don't want to commit to full on Scalebound, but we will commit to Scalebound. We'll put in the money for Scalebound Episode 1. If that does well, that will pay for Episode 2 and go on and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but again, like you said, that could be a problem, because if that game doesn't do well, you ain't getting Episode 2.
You only get that one portion of Scalebound, and that's it.
Yeah, so that could be bad, By the way, I saw some people, the PlayStation Pony guys, they're going, oh, he's only saying that because Microsoft doesn't have any big, exclusives, single player games. I'm like, come on, guys, they have them. It's just the guys haven't been buying them. Like Quantum Break, we saw them talking about that yesterday, right? Sam Lake was there, right? He looks just like Max Payne. It's crazy.
He is Max Payne. Like, he is the face of Max Payne. That's him.
You know, but again, that was a big single player, huge game, right? Didn't sell. So Microsoft, maybe because of shit like that, they're like, oh man, people don't want these kind of games. Here's my thing. People do want those kind of games, but I think their audience doesn't want those type of games. That's what it could be, you know? I mean, so they're trying something. And then the other thing I want to talk about is like, why is it that, and Phil Spencer's not the first person to say this, why is it that it seems like a lot of game companies are trying to chase the Netflix model of shit, you know? It's like, okay, Netflix is great and all, but do games, like, do they work with that model? I don't know about that.
That's what they're trying to figure out.
But the thing is that we're talking about you want to talk about the Netflix model, but the Netflix model only works if you have a shitload of content. Yeah. Like if you don't get like you get a full when you get Netflix, you get
he's talking about like, okay, just don't think about Netflix the entire thing, just like the way shows are delivered on Netflix. No,
like, I mean I'm saying this, like when you get a show, you get the whole show.
Oh, okay, yeah, you're right. So you
don't get episode 1 of friggin' Stranger Things. You get all of Stranger Things. So I mean, the thing is that I don't think they're gonna friggin' develop a game and then and do it that way. I think what they really want to do is just put out a portion of a game, see if that shit does well, because you have the subscription or whatever to let's call it Xbox games.
Well, he did say this is for Xbox Game Pass. They're trying this for Xbox Game Pass. So there you go. I don't know.
Yeah, you have the subscription, but I mean, to be honest, again, if nobody's downloading these games, like let's say we're not paying it per game, but let's say nobody there are like just like on Netflix, there are shows that nobody fucking watches.
Yeah.
So just why would it pay to invest in a game that nobody wants to play, right?
Yeah, that's the way they're thinking about it.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know.
Well, they're not really investing in that much anytime soon. So, but yeah, you can cherry pick and move the goalposts and say that this certain type of game has more impact on this certain type of criteria. So the whole thing about how that they're like what their fan base is mostly comprised of now is the shooter people and the first person, the Destiny and the fucking what's Overwatch people. Like, yeah, that's gonna affect their fan base. But if you don't want to attract other people, then yeah, just keep alienating yourselves and keep saying that games like Zelda and Horizon don't have as much impact as what you define your market to be.
Yeah, that's a great point. That was a good way of putting it.
Maybe in the Xbox market, maybe those sorts of games don't seem to have any air. I mean, but that's not the same for everything else. But I feel like, okay, if they want to start to kind of placate to a certain audience, right? I mean, there are a lot of PC games that fit that criteria. There are a lot of PC games. There are a lot of PC games, like first-person type PC games that fit that criteria. So why don't we start trying to bring those over? No,
yeah,
I don't know.
What more shooting games?
Bring over shooting man, like essentially more shooter man type games. Man, here's the thing. They know. I think they know what their audience is, but I don't think that everybody wants to make those sorts of games because they're kind of a little, you don't want to keep making the same things over and over and over again, but maybe they kind of have to do that sort of things to kind of attract the audience to getting into things. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what they would need. Maybe they need to make like bro charted, like where he's like, it's like this dude with short hair. He's a former military guy.
Well, that's Gears of War.
Yeah, Gears of War.
But he instead of like climbing rocks, he like smashes his fists into the walls and like climbs walls. I don't know. Like he's essentially the Hulk, but like a normal dude. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to jump in on Phil Spencer's comments? I'm going to take that as a no. So we'll move on to question number 2. All right. What are your thoughts on Xbox One and Scorpio 1080p versus Scorpio 4K screenshots? He goes, that ladybug pixel count is over 9,000. Okay. I saw the comparisons. They were over up on Windows Central, and I got to be honest, man, I didn't see any fucking difference. And I'm wondering, is it because I'm on a 1080p monitor, like 24-inch monitor? I didn't notice any fucking difference at all, man. And I think it may be because of the game they chose. They chose some like very heavily stylized looking game. Like when they showed a picture of fucking Forza Motorsport 5, I believe it was, or 6. At 4K, I'm like, okay, that looks fucking nice. You know, I can see a difference there. But with this game, I didn't notice shit. Even the ladybug, like it still looked blurry and shit, you know. So I'm like, my thing is like, because a lot of people are saying, oh, the 4K on Xbox looks weak. I'm not trying to say. I think they should have picked a better game to demonstrate their 4K, because that shit was not impressive. You shouldn't have picked some heavily stylized game. It didn't translate well at all. You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of when they showed you the difference between HDR and non-HDR during that fucking live stream with PlayStation 4 Pro. It's like, I can't see the difference, bro. You know, like I'm pretty sure you could, maybe you could see maybe you could see the difference if you had a 4K TV that was 66 inches and shit. Maybe you'll see the difference there, but on a 24-inch 1080p monitor, I didn't see anything. It looked exactly the same.
Here's the other thing. I mean, like obviously, okay, if you're gonna have like a really high polygon count, you can see that sort of stuff. But at the same time,
but it's just Texas, so they didn't add more polygons.
Oh, they didn't add any more polygons. So it's like, okay, so yeah, well, you know, obviously you can zoom in like really close to it and show off the texture detail. But I feel like, you know, I would say, you know, I mean it only works when you get up that close. You know what I mean? I mean, to be honest, it's like I would say the texture like the draw distance, you know, like the one like where you see textures in the distance. I feel like that is an important one, you know, because they have that what is it called, dithering, where it kind of low reses the textures when. And
did you notice any difference in those screenshots? Because I fucking didn't.
No, it was something. It was some things, but not a lot.
Well.
Okay, who in here? Carlos, go ahead, because my question was like, who in this room saw those screenshots and saw a vastly different thing? Because Daniel's in the comments saying it was totally different. Like he said, it was night and day to him.
No, it's not totally different, and the reason why you can't tell the difference, there might be a difference, but you can't tell the difference because the images that they were choosing did not like grant them to show the fidelity of the textures, like. It's just a shiny ladybug. You know?
Yeah, it's like, okay, shit, you know.
You can't go more detail than like there's like so much detail you can just show on that image.
I mean, I would say a better version of that would be like if you're showing an environment and you see like rock textures, because there's more stuff that goes onto that rather than a ladybug who just essentially has like shine and it has like a couple of different shades and stuff like that, you know, or maybe even a gradient.
Nothing like that, man. And the woman, you know, Sarah Palin, she looks like Sarah Palin. She looked exactly the same in all those like screenshots, you know.
I mean, there was like I saw like a shot of like somebody posted a shot of that, and then all the women from other games going like gasping or something like that.
That was great.
And I'm like, what's that for? I mean,
well, no, people were trying to say like, you know, Xbox Scorpio, the ultimate 4K system, and then he showed pictures of better looking women from PlayStation games. Going, really? It was just a stupid meme. That's all it was.
Yeah, it's like. I would think they should have chosen a better thing to showcase that off of. Like, let's say if they had a shot, you know, just for the sake of conversation, they had a shot of Marcus Phoenix. You zoom up to that full, you see all the detail in his crazy like shoulder armor, or like, you know, you zoom into his friggin' like that, you know, he always wears that bandana on his head, and then you can zoom up really close. You can see that shit is embroidered onto his friggin' bandana. Yeah. Like that's like stuff like oh, okay, but at the same time, I think when it comes to games, you have to be you know, even no matter how much memory you have, you still need to be a little bit, you know, wary as to how much texture detail, because like if you're never gonna get that close to fucking Marcus Phoenix, his head or his armor, what does it matter how detailed his suit is?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hey, what's up, man?
Oh, there we are. Are those assets rendered to begin with, though, is the question.
You mean rendered in 4K to begin with, right?
Well, yeah, I'm just saying, like, did they go down to the, you know, all the embroidery on his bandana and everything like that? Like, are those textures even in the game, or are they just like, we're not going to bother putting those guys in, nobody's going to look at those? Or
well, Manny was making an example. The Marcus Phoenix wasn't the comparison.
Yeah,
it
he wasn't. It was
This lady looked like Sarah Palin and a yellow ladybug.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, are we? Well, first of all, we want to keep in mind that like it's really difficult to show like what 4K looks like through a 1080p TV or
Exactly.
a 1660 monitor. But I mean, most of these games that are being developed for Xbox, the studios aren't necessarily like. I know that you'll be able to go into your PC settings and crank up, your anti-aliasing and your particle effects and all that shit. But I don't know that you can bump up a bunch of resolution textures that they didn't bother to put it in the beginning. Like, GTA is a great example. It comes out for PC every iteration, and then 6 months later, the PC guys have gone through and actually replaced the textures with high resolution textures to make the thing look photorealistic. So I guess what my question is, if they're not putting those textures in GTA games now, what makes anybody think that they would take the time to put those textures in for just the Scorpio? Is that going to be a return on investment that developers are going to be willing to make?
Dude, you know how much flack I got for saying exactly that on Twitter? I said that. I'm like, most of these third-party developers are not going to go through all that trouble. They're not. It's not going to be a big return on investment. Think about it like this, right? The Xbox version of games don't sell as much as PlayStation 4. The Scorpio, I know that there's not going to be Scorpio versions of games, so it's like run on both, but very few people are going to own the Scorpio, right? It's probably going to be about 15% of the audience, just like with PlayStation.
Are there more people that own a Scorpio or more people that own a gaming PC?
Oh, there's going to be more people with a gaming PC, obviously.
Okay, and they still don't bother most of the time to put these super high-res textures on the gaming PC versions. They leave that up to the mod community.
No, they do. Like, I mean, they might look better, but like all those textures. If you're playing, for example, like GTA 5 on the PC and you're playing it on 4K, those textures are rendered at 4K. If they look better, if a custom mod has textures that look better, that's just because they did a better job at.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I can render a solid blue square at 4K.
But the thing is that when it's rendering it, I mean, the thing is that usually when these games are done in that resolution, like a high resolution, like 4K or up, right? Usually, when they expect to go to that resolution, they would usually put a texture in there that's for that resolution, or essentially have the engine kind of downscale them so they can run on the engine. But for a game like Grand Theft Auto 5, what is it, 5?
Yeah,
5. Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto 5. That game, they probably didn't even do that. You're just running the same textures as you did in 1080p, just with a higher overall resolution.
Yeah, but they're rendered. But
there's not going to be any. There's not, if the game was already set to run in the format of 1080p, right? They're not the texture work is not going to get any better.
No, but what I'm saying is
we're talking about texture resolution, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they're natively rendered at 4K. Whether they're enhanced for 4K, that's a different story.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
If like, let's say you can render Crash Bandicoot at 4K, but it's not going to fix any of the textures that are in that game, because those textures that were in that game were made for whatever it was back then.
You haven't played a game on Hip Hop Gamer's PC, man.
No, yeah. Somehow it fixes. Well, somehow it fixes all the texture resolution on everything. No, it doesn't. Those things have to be replaced. The guys who created Crash Bandicoot would have had to have known that 4K existed and put something in there so that when you run it in 4K mode, it'll look right when you zoom up the Crash Bandicoot's face, or it's just going to be the same low resolution textures as they were. And that's the thing. Okay, let's say we're started running a bunch of games in 4K. Like a lot of the last gen games running in 4K. That doesn't mean that the textures have 4K resolution.
Yeah, exactly. This is interesting. But yeah, again, go ahead.
4K. They could, and nobody's saying that they can't. The question is whether or not they will, And my opinion is coming out of the fact that they don't seem to put super high-res graphics in a lot of PC games because there comes a point of diminished return. Like you can have a high resolution and then you polish it with bells and whistles and anti-aliasing and all of the other options turned on, and that definitely does make it look better. But if we're talking about in terms of resolutions, like, yeah, they don't usually package downscaled 4K resolutions for something that's going to reach mainly a 1080 audience. It's just not a great investment. Most companies don't seem to take the time to do that with an audience as large as PC gaming. So I can't see why a developer would take the time to do that with a smaller audience that would be the Scorpio. And I'm not saying it's a small audience before everybody breaks out their pitchforks and torches and everything like that. I'm just saying that you're still going to see more high-end PCs in the wild than you're going to see Scorpios, I think.
Yeah, exactly. I completely agree with that. And it is a smaller audience. You guys want to come at anybody, come at me. It's the fact.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Again, it's like the thing is that one thing about it is like especially with the power of the Scorpio, maybe you could you can bump bump draw distances. That's where I can see a lot of that happening.
Yeah.
Draw distances, frame rates, things like that. Yeah.
Draw distances and frame rates. I mean, how awesome would it be if let's just use a game like Gravity Rush. Gravity Rush has that point where everything kind of turns like a low res model. Let's say you had the ability to turn that all up, and essentially all the different buildings that you see in the distance, you can actually see that they're all like higher resolution models, as opposed to kind of like the way even like Grand Theft Auto, where it's like there is a point where you see like things growing, like you can see the geometry growing on all the buildings as you get closer to them.
Yeah, we'll see though. But yeah, very interesting. But again, they should have used a better game. I don't even know what game that was they were running. The Sarah Palin simulator. I have no fucking idea.
Anyway. I want that one.
All right. The last
Can I just say,
before
we finish this thing, like, yeah, I actually did notice like a difference. It wasn't like a major difference, but there was definitely a noticeable difference, especially if you look in the right places. But the problem is that the right places are the places where the eye is not drawn to.
Oh shit!
Exactly. That is it. That's it.
When you see that picture, like the first place that you go to is like her eyes and her face.
That's right.
There was like no difference at all. Like I spent a good like 2 minutes just now just going back and forth, and the differences were in the backgrounds. So on the left side where the letters were, like the text was a lot clearer and sharper, and also on the right side where like those glass test tubes were, like they were also like a lot more detail. But then the thing is, like the eye is not drawn to that, so it kind of renders it a bit mute.
Yeah, I had the same problem. Like I was trying to look for details on her face.
Yeah,
and
it's not there.
Moving the thing back and forth, sliding. I'm like, maybe it's me, And there's a little bit on her necklace, and the ladybug had a few more cracks in its shell. But yeah, like you said, the environment got better. Mostly.
Yeah. But she didn't. But yeah, that's a great point. You're right. The eye is not drawn to a light bulb, and the background is drawn to humans' faces. That's the way we're biologically programmed.
Exactly. Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, if we were,
I'm looking at this shit right now. You're right. The background, you can see a difference. You don't see. That's hilarious.
Seeing a more detailed environment. That's I agree with that. But again, it's like it's not exactly being used for where it kind of matters. It's
like, look at that. Her buttons look better. Yeah, but that's not the shit people are paying attention to.
Like if her face. Here's the thing. Like you can do choice cuts of what things that you kind of trick out with detail. Yeah. And then you can do a lot of times. Again, like if you notice in games, the things that get the most love is actually the characters. Like they
unless it's Mass Effect Andromeda.
I'm sure. Here's the thing. I'm sure the faces in Mass Effect Andromeda have the most amount of polygons and textures on them.
Yeah, aliens' faces, sure. Get the B team doing the humans, but we don't need to go over that again. But yeah, they should have picked a better game. All right. Anyway, last question here for Mr. Vishal. All right. We know that Destiny 2 is releasing on September 8th. Call of Duty World War II on November 3rd. Star Wars Battlefront 2 on November 17th. A new Assassin's Creed is also coming this holiday season. Red Dead 2 might release in 2017. So because of all that, when do you think Microsoft should release their upcoming Xbox/Windows 10 quote-unquote exclusives? And when do you think And do you think they're going to release them anyway? I think they're going to release most of their upcoming games alongside Scorpio. The reason I think he's asking that is because think about it like this: if Microsoft starts releasing a bunch of exclusives, this is a problem Sony may have too, right? They're going to get eaten up by all those fucking games, you know. So they're in a little bit of a quandary there. It's like, okay, you need exclusives to sell Scorpio, but those exclusives may get murdered by all the big AAA third-party games, you know. So should Microsoft release a bunch of them? I don't. Maybe they should.
When was the alleged release date for Scorpio, or what the people saying?
Let's say November. You know, it's probably going to be
November. You know, I would say, yeah, it would probably they would have to have very strong titles to kind of launch with the Scorpio, or made some sort of deals with some of the studios to kind of, you know, Scorpio it up a little bit, Scorpio it up a little.
Yeah,
because people you want to give people those even if there's not anything specifically made for the thing, you still want to give people like, this is the game to play on here. You know, this takes the most advantage of the Scorpio's power, you know.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, going back to the last topic, Daniel says that we're all blind on this show. All right, because we didn't see those textures. Listen, but like I said, you need to take off those green tinted glasses, bro.
Daniel, the thing is that you're looking, you know, what in a video game during a cutscene or something like that, which that is obviously probably a cutscene and not gameplay. Where are you mostly looking? You can only look. You can only look. You can, you know. Let me just say this: you as a you know, as human beings, we cannot really comprehend all of an image. We only really comprehend a small portion of an image, maybe about this tiny. If you notice, where you're like looking into eyes and stuff like that. So obviously, when you're sitting there looking at, you know, going over everything, but when you're in a game, you're not going to be like that. You're gonna see how pretty the game is, and you're not going to worry about how detailed everything is going to be.
Exactly. But anyway,
the one place that you would see it is on important characters and people, you know, like people's faces.
But yeah, anyway, Scorpio exclusives, they're gonna have some, like, you know, we know the new Forza's coming, Forza 7, right? But yeah, I think if they release anything bigger, but then again, what the fuck do they have? Like State of Decay, Crackdown would be good, but I say release that maybe before Scorpio drops. You know what I'm saying? Because again, that game's gonna get murdered by all those third parties.
They could also preempt all of that shit too. Be like, okay, so everything's going to be dropping down in November, right? Well, why don't we preempt that? We release Crackdown at the beginning, like right, maybe a month before the actual Scorpio thing, and be like, yeah, Crackdown is even better in Scorpio, you know, something like that.
Wait until you get the Scorpio version. Go ahead, Carlos.
I think they should get released with the Scorpio. You need to hype up the console when it comes.
I agree with that too.
Like, and also like, those third-party games are also being pimped. Most of them, like the good ones, are getting pimped up by Sony.
Yeah,
with those exclusivity deals. So Microsoft needs to like counter some of those.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard though, because, you know, like I said, like a lot of those games are still going to be on Xbox, right? So people may just opt to buy those instead of any exclusives. We all know, even, and this is as true for Sony too, exclusives don't sell us, but just third parties, you know.
Yeah, like. As well as, you know, as well as the Uncharted did.
Yeah,
it still pales in comparison to something like a Call of Duty.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the worst selling Call of Duty.
Yep, that's a fact.
Because Call of Duty's already in the zeitgeist. Call of Duty is the shooting game.
Yeah, you know? Shooter man.
Is Shooter man.
I love me some Shooter man.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on.
Hey, Tony, didn't we create a character called Gunman?
Yeah, we did create a character.
We created Gunman.
Yeah. See, Brian, we already got a character for your game, man.
Shooter Man, starring Gunman.
All right. Anybody else want to jump on this real quick? I'll take that as a no. So we'll move on. Mr. Himdeal in the house. All right.
I still want to call him Heimendal.
Yeah, Himdeal. So, okay, by the way, he asked these questions as a reply to something somebody else said in the comments 2 weeks ago, so I didn't see the questions, you know, because he was like, Tony, you forgot to answer my question. I'm like, why didn't you leave questions? Like, right there. I'm like, dude, it was a reply to something somebody else said. I'm not looking that way, you know. So he goes, in games with relatively simple, customizable upgrade trees, skill trees, or whatever, what do people usually try to upgrade first? Combat, stealth, utility, crafting items, using lots of items, tools, magic, or a mix of things. Have you ever upgraded a skill tree just to use a weapon only to learn that the weapon sucks ass?
Everybody has.
So yeah, okay. So when I don't really know. I guess we could only speak personally from this. I don't really ask.
I don't think it's a general answer. I think it's
when you're upgrading skill trees, what do you usually try to go for first? For me, I always go for the two main things: health and armor of any kind. Right? I always upgrade those two so I could live longer, and then after that, whatever my main weapon is, I try to upgrade that, and then anything that kind of helps me with the environment, finding shit, I go for that. But yeah, definitely health and armor first above anything.
I do the health, and then if there's a stealth aspect, because I'm just not an aggressive player, and I like the ability to kind of like get around people and stuff. So like if we're talking a game like what was it, Deus Ex, Human Revolution, the way I upgraded my guy was that I was more stealthy. I could, he had that ability where he could like, disappear for a couple of seconds when he's in cover and shit like that.
Yeah, for those kind of games, and Deus Ex especially, I always upgraded, my health, like health, armor, hacking, very important. The ability to manipulate people in conversations, if that's available, I try to upgrade that too. Shit like that. Yeah, if it's a charm ability, I actually go for that first. Because I don't more opportunities. Or persuade or whatever.
because it just means that, at least for me, it just means that I can avoid the direct conflict.
Yeah, exactly.
I suck at. I'm gonna tell you this. I suck at fucking shooting games. I'm just like not very good at it. Like any like first person shooters, like Uncharted, they make it a little bit easier for you, so I'm good with that. But I suck at most of those games. I think I've said this before. Anytime like my shooting ability fails me, I'll just run over to the guy, and if there's a punch button, I will punch them. That's it.
Yes.
So it's like run out of bullets, punch him.
It's funny. One of the Call of Duties there was get the whole mission just with melee, and that was it. It was like just so for people like that don't want to shoot or aren't good at shoot. Don't worry, just beat everybody up.
Since you're talking, what do you upgrade first?
I upgrade. Well, it depends on the game. What game are we?
Any game, like you try to give like a general thing, like you go.
All right. Well, like Wildlands, for example. I'm playing that now, right? So
they got you, motherfucker.
Yeah, right. They do. See, I upgrade my weapons. I upgrade my scope. I get thermal, and I make sure I have a sniper rifle. Always want a sniper rifle. You want to go distance. That's it. So once you get a good sniper rifle, because you're always going to start off with an assault rifle and a pistol and all that. But the sniper rifle, I don't know which game you start off with a sniper rifle. You try to upgrade and get one of those. And once you get one of those, get all the attachments for it. Get the thermal, get the sight, get the steady grip. And then that's it. And then from there, you're easy peasy, because then from a distance, you can just start picking them off. And even if they detect you, they still have to get to you, so you can just from 100 yards out. That's what I do.
All right. Brett, what about you, man? What do you prioritize in skill trees?
Generally, I start off with stealth stuff, so I can go in and murder enemies way higher than I should. And then I progress from there depending on what my options are. I like building up my stamina bar and my stealth, so I generally approach a lot of games like find a play. I Batman it, basically. I sit there and I wait for my perfect opportunity, and then I go in and I murder one guy, which alerts 4, and then I murder all 4 of them. It's even in Zelda, I approach it the same way. I'll sneak up, I'll climb up a wall, I'll go and I'll hang out in somebody, and then I'll leap down and stab somebody. So I like executions first, and then combo breakers or special abilities after that.
Sweet.
And don't forget magic. You love
dude, yeah, I do love my mages. If there's an option for magic, specifically fire magic, I will hurl fireballs as soon as humanly possible.
Except for Dark Souls 3, maybe?
Oh no, Dark Souls 3, I'm always a pyromancer in every Dark Souls game. And I'm actually super glad, because the pyromancer was awesome in Dark Souls 1, and they just sucked balls in Dark Souls 2. I'm still like, I'm throwing fireballs, fuck all of you.
All right, Brian, get in here, man. What do you prioritize first?
I have 4 simple words. Move fast, hit hard. That's all I do. If I die in that process, hey, you know what? I didn't get good. But apart from that, move fast and hit hard. That's all I do.
Carlos, man, what about you?
Health and strength mostly. Like, it depends on the game. Like, sometimes games are broken where, like, for example, like Bloodborne, you can have like your magic and that shit would like destroy everything. But then like Dark Souls 3, your magic doesn't really do shit. So it just depends on the game. But yeah, some games I prefer strength. Or like especially like Fallout. That thing that makes you carry more items so you won't get overnumbered. Man. That's really important. So I always want to raise that shit up as soon as I can.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, like item carrying capacity shit. I always try to go for that too. You know.
Yeah, and then but like stuff like Persona, like that thing's got to get evenly spread out. You can't just get like raise up one thing and then expect to do all these things. You know.
Yeah, you know, you're right about that. In those type of games, I usually just go down the line, and then when I'm done, keep going. You know what I'm saying? Try to even it out for sure. Chris, what about you, man?
I usually focus on stamina and attack, so I definitely want to, like Brian said, hit hard, but I also want to be able to attack longer. If that's a stat. If that's not a stat, then dexterity, so speed and attack is usually my focus.
Awesome. All right. Next one, Brett. This is near and dear to your heart. Will couch co-op return to our console spaces now that we have so much quote unquote power in these plastic boxes? Is my presumption correct that only old folks like myself even seem to want it? Here's the thing, dude. Consoles have been getting more powerful all the time, but couch co-op seems to be going away. So it doesn't really have anything to do with power. It's what people are, you know, it's more about convenience than anything. You know, most people don't have the time to get together and play with their friends because, you know, their friends are like old bastards with kids and stuff, you know. And even like Brett, we were talking about this, like even little kids like 14 years old, their friends could be from Germany or Australia or something, you know. Like the whole notion of like the only people you play with are in your neighborhood is not really like the same anymore, because now the people you play with are people all around the world. So it's totally different now, you know.
I feel like also with the option, having the option also matters too.
Yeah,
like
I think
if that option was in there, I mean, I would definitely play more. Like I remember when me and my girlfriend were playing Little Big Planet, like we would play together.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
I've been reading a lot about, and I totally forgot about this, like college dorms care.
Yeah, they would. Or they could, but then again, if you have a bunch of college guys, they probably
LAN parties.
They probably each have consoles, so they could just do a LAN party or something like that. I don't even know if they do consoles. Are they even capable of doing LAN shit anymore? Like I don't even know about that.
Halo still had that option,
even at 5, right?
I think so. I don't see why they would remove it.
I remember one developer, I forgot who it was, but they were saying that couch co-op stuff isn't cost effective because not a lot of people are demanding it. So I'm wondering, maybe it is just a thing for old dinosaurs, you know?
I don't think it's a thing for old dinosaurs. I think people want to do it. I mean, it's weird for me to think that we're at a point now where people don't want to sit around and play games with their friends, and I don't really think that's.
But they do sit around playing games with their friends. It's just their friends are somewhere else. I mean, think about online gaming is huge. You know?
No. I know online gaming is huge, but like, do we all really think like, does nobody see their friends face to face anymore? Is that just a thing of the past? Does nobody play video games in the same physical space, or is there not a need for it? I can't buy that.
But the thing is, Brett, if okay, here's the thing. Companies wouldn't be phasing this shit out if people were like,
dude,
no, where's my couch? Where's my couch?
It out. Look at the NES Classic system that come out. Why do you think there's so many hipsters that love retro gaming?
Okay, Nintendo's obviously the total exception in this case because they still do couch co-op.
There wasn't a lot of 2-player games on there. What was it, Contra? Was the Contra only one on there?
But Brett, here's the thing I'm trying to ask you, right? Okay. Why? Okay, if couch co-op is still like a big important thing, why are more people mad that it's gone? They don't really. No one really seems to say anything about it.
Honestly, because they've been fucking conditioned. Like and this is from a lot of my clients. Like a lot of my tattoo clients between the ages of 18 and say 25, 26, fucking like it is. Retro gaming is a huge thing. They will go out there, they will buy retro consoles, they will have friends over, and they will drink, and they will play Super Mario Brothers or fucking something else on a Super Nintendo or a Nintendo system. I don't know why it's never a Sega. That breaks my heart a little bit. But this is the thing. We have a bar called Up Down. That one of the main
we have Up Down here too.
Yeah, one of their main things is that they have a Smash Brothers tournament going on pretty much all the time. Like it's fallen into this idea of like retro or hipster or something like that. But there's absolutely fucking 21 to 25-year-old young adults who want to get together and drink and have fun and play video games. Like the very idea that video games should be brought out at a party is weird and kind of sickening to me. But it still happens. Like there's this weird people like, wow, I got people over, but I kind of want to play a video game. Well, I guess I'll break out the Super Nintendo. Like, so it's why aren't people clamoring for it? Because it's just kind of accepted, and it's been this way. It's been going this way for a long time. These younger gamers, they just kind of think that that's the way that it is. So yeah, you hear old dinosaurs like us being like, "Where's my fucking co-op?" But for these people, this is the way that it's always been. They never had those days of going over and playing at a Super Nintendo at a friend's house. So they think this is some new thing, which is why they're like, "Oh man, you know what's great? Just getting a couple PBRs and kicking back and playing some Smash Brothers." And I was like, "Dude, I could have fucking told you that 12 years ago."
Yeah, no, you're bringing up a good point. There's like a lot of the younger guys obviously didn't grow up with couch co-op because the games didn't have couch co-op.
You look at the last generation, and it almost got like it pretty much got phased out at the end.
Last gen is when it got phased out. Yeah, in the beginning it was done.
The only ones that I could say that you could really do that was like Resident Evil 5, the Gears of War games. You could still do like screen on screen co-op. I can't remember any other ones. Like, I mean, maybe like games like Little Big Planet, you could still do that all the way up till now. Not even a lot of some of the racing games too.
Yeah, but again, because it is kind of, Brett, I know the people you hang out with, they're like that. But, the people I talk to, they're mostly like, yeah, couch co-op was cool back in the day. But now all my friends are spread out. No one's playing anymore. We just play online. That's how that's how they connect with each other, I think that's what's going on. I think that's what most people are like, why am I going to go through the trouble of trying to go to, driving to somebody's house, taking buses to people's houses when I could just play with the same person online?
Because you're already supposed to be hanging out with them. Quit being a neckbeard. Like that's the thing. Like that's the thing. I guess that I don't understand. Like, has being in somebody else's physical presence really become that weird of a thing?
I don't think it's a weird thing. It's more of a convenience. What if you're home and you got a wife and kids? You can't be driving to your buddy's house to get drunk and play games all the time. It's easier.
You don't want to play games with your wife if you already got somebody in the
house.
What
if your wife isn't a gamer?
Well, then that's a different story.
You gotta.
I'm not saying everybody should worry about this. Like, I'm just saying, like, I find it hard to believe that we, as a culture, have gotten to the point where I'm like, where we feel we don't want to play video games and be in the physical presence of another human being at the same time. Like, I
don't think it's a matter of wanting. It's just you can't do it because it's not convenient anymore.
Dude, that's you. You just got old. I'm sorry.
All my friends got old. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
All your friends got old because of the same age.
Well, even that, I moved. I moved out of New York.
Yeah, hey, Adam, I'm coming over your crib right now to play. Oh wait, I can't.
No, you gotta take a plane.
I always used to go visit Adam. Whenever I could, when he still lived in the city and stuff. And same thing with my cousin, our cousin Daniel. Like, he'd always go to visit Adam. We'd play games or
back
something
in the day.
This is like even like Xbox One era, right? When you still lived in New York, right?
In Astoria, yeah.
So Tony, you're telling me that if Manny came up to visit you, and you had a brand new copy of Street Fighter laying on your fucking desk, that you two wouldn't pick up and play together?
Oh, hell yeah, we'd be playing.
But how often does that happen? How often does that happen?
Well, now that Manny's moved away, not as often, but that's more of
when Manny lived here, we barely did because we both working and shit, bro. That's what
I lived not far from it. There was definitely with my work schedule.
Here's the thing I'm trying to get you to understand, Brett. Not everybody is 21 to 25 like the guys that you do tattoos for. There's different types of people out there. That's what I'm trying to tell you, man.
No, I totally believe that. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like they're old guys like us, but that's always been the case of, sorry, bro, when you hit 35, like you just don't have enough time to like hang out with your buddies, and that's not video games. That's like fucking everything.
But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't like to have something like that anyway. Because I mean, sometimes I have some of my local friends here in Pennsylvania come over. I go over to their place, and obviously a lot of the new games, there's not really any multiplayer or anything like that. So we're either watching somebody else play a game, or we essentially, my friend bought, just for the hell of it, he bought the like collection of the old Atari games. It was like for PlayStation 4, whereas essentially most of those games are 2-player games.
Yeah. By the way, some of the comments in here are interesting. South Star Online, he goes, even the younger players don't play video games anymore. 13-year-olds be going home to play online with their friends. Yeah, that's true. Cal LC said that a couch co-op is more for third world countries.
Oh, man!
I can see that too. No, you know what? Let's not joke, because I mean, there's a large majority of the world that does not have high-speed internet.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I wouldn't. Here's the thing. I know these guys have kind of phased it out, but I still wish that they would, for certain games,
they should have the option.
At least have the option.
Like, and then, to be honest,
we don't even get fucking campaign like co-op.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's I keep mentioning this, like the how awesome like Gears of War was for that. Where essentially I could be like, okay, Adam's playing Gears of War. I could jump on and play Gears of War with him. I play Dom or something like that. Or if I'm in the room with Adam, I'm playing Dom on the same screen.
Yeah. By the way, Cal goes, it's all about iPads. Adam, like you keep saying, that's what kids want, man.
I'm telling you, even with the 3DS stuff, I'll put that in front of my daughter and her friends stuff, and they're like, no.
That's like a baby's toy.
Right. I get that for like kids. Like, let's pin down our definitions here. Like, are kids like 12 and under? Are they 18 and under? Are they 21 and under?
That's teenagers then. They're not kids if they're under 18.
Yeah, kids are all about iPads, but I think as soon as you hit like 12, 13, you're gonna generally get yourself a game system rather than dick around your iPad unless you want friends making fun of you.
But if all their friends are playing that shit, then no one's going to be making fun of them.
I mean, I don't think for those. I mean, how many online multiplayer games are there for iPad?
Now there's some. They got some.
What is that? What was it? The Hearthstone.
But most people do it like from what I see with the kids. It's all about scores. It's all about that score center and beating scores. Oh, I got
bringing it back to arcade days. Remember that shit?
Yeah, and that's what it was. I mean, a lot of people care about leaderboards even till this day. They may not admit it, but they care. Especially when it's comparing to their friends. They're like, I don't care about people, but I'm the best out of my friends in this game.
Remember when online leaderboards was considered an online aspect?
Yeah, they still consider it an online aspect.
It's such a stupid thing. It's like the game has absolutely no other online abilities, right? But yet it has a leaderboard.
Yeah, like the Batman games.
Yeah, Batman games have it. Fucking Gravity Rush has that shit. I'm like, really? Do I care how many of those stupid friggin' those gems that people have like mined in that stupid mining level? Come on.
Yeah. All right. Last question here from Mr. Himdeal. He goes, will the Switch be the last traditional gaming handheld with buttons and analog sticks? While I'd love a successor to the Vita that's backwards compatible, I just can't see it ever happening right now. So is he suggesting that all like handhelds will just be touch based? Because that would be fucking horrible.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
That would be terrible.
I think that the experience would be bad enough to keep people away from it. I think that's the reason iPad, like, let's all be fucking honest here. Like, if the iPad had an inbuilt, good set of controllers, or if it had a controller that went with it, people actually started making real games for it. Like, it could be a gaming platform, but it's never tried to be.
It's funny because like the Switch's the Switch's like idea of controllers. To be honest, why didn't anybody who creating iPad devices think of that shit? Essentially, sliding two fucking controllers or sliding the goddamn thing into a controller.
Joy-Con boys, Joy-Con
Exactly.
boys.
Essentially, the Switch is an iPad with a fucking controller shit stuck on the side. You could literally make that into like what is it? What do they call it? One of those cases. You could just slap that shit into a case, and then you could have a real controller. Dude,
What does this look like without the? Look at it. Look at this shit.
Yeah, there we go. It's a Samsung or an iPod. Or iPad, or the other thing about the other thing about the damn thing is like, you can do that. You stick those stupid controllers, and like also the other thing is like, don't those controllers use friggin' Bluetooth on the thing? They don't actually directly connect to the thing. Every single fucking what are those things? Those stupid iPads and Samsung tablets all have Bluetooth. So what can you do? Just make two controllers that attach to this stupid thing, and then you have your handheld.
Look at my iPad.
If they would have thought ahead, I would absolutely agree. But I think one of the reasons that the Switch works the way that it does is its hardware configuration. Like, you don't have to buy a special case to hook the controllers into it. It just kind of hooks in on its own. Makes that nice little satisfying click. And also, I do want to point out
Nintendo.
Wait, Brett, you mean that?
Yep.
That doesn't sound like.
I do like that sound. But Apple's always been really hostile towards gamers. Even Apple PCs, it's always been really hard to try and game on an Apple. That's one of the reasons PC kind of rose to prominence back in the days when it was Apple versus IBMs. I mean, I very specifically remember not being able to play like Command and Conquer on an Apple. Like, I had an Apple. My first PC was an Apple, and like I couldn't play dick on it. I had to use the family computer because the family computer was an IBM. So I don't really see, like, if we want to talk about legacy, we've been talking a lot about what Nintendo has done in the past. Let's bring up for a second what Apple has done in the past.
I don't think Apple would ever develop something like that, but I would think some other third-party company could have designed something better. And to be honest, if let's just say for the sake of conversation that this Switch thing does not do well, what can Nintendo do with this? They can literally adapt the Switch idea to an iPad. It's already there. The thing connects to can connect to your TV. You can essentially figure out how to attach these things to your iPad. And the controllers were pretty decent. So yeah.
So let me ask you, when you say somebody could have come out with something different, like, that's a little bit something that grinds my gears. Like, okay, I understand that people want the Switch to be more. Are you willing to pay $1,000 for that to happen? Because there is no iPad that comes even close to the price range of the Switch. Like, it's the Switch is all about compromise. It hits the middle ground. For a $300 tablet, it plays a hell of a good gaming experience. Whereas I don't think that you're going to find you show me a better tablet that has better parts for less money and can be gaming oriented, then you have my attention. But if you take into account the Joy-Cons are $90, you're talking about what, a Kindle? Like, is a Kindle really going to run games like this? Like, is a $200 tablet going to be the equivalent replacement to a Switch? And if so, does the company that brings it out, Samsung or Apple or whatever, even have the first party lineup to help support it? So no, I don't think that you could. Yes, in theory you could, have them come out with a special iPod or iPad that has docks on the side for third party or first party controllers, but then you'd still be looking at spending $800 to get into the thing for the gaming equivalent or experience that's pretty equivalent to the Switch.
But I think in general, I think when it comes to like a lot of handheld games, graphics don't seem to be that much of an issue. You don't want. I mean, you obviously they're a little bit more accepting for a shortcoming of a handheld or a iPad graphic fidelity rather than the big boy consoles.
And I don't think you even. It's a question of fidelity. I think it's a question of, can it run the game? Would an iPad run Breath of the Wild or Mario Kart?
I mean, I don't know any of the specs of an iPad, but I mean, anybody know the specs of an iPad here?
I don't. I know
that they have their own chips.
You can't compare them because Apple makes their own chips. They don't have a common frame of reference with their risk base and and the standard one.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on because again we got a lot of questions here. Symbio's a sneaky one, and Carlos, don't add these to the questions. By the way, we're just gonna rattle these off quickly. He wants us to, because we told people we don't want any E3 speculation questions, but he wants us to talk about his predictions for E3. What do we think? So he goes, Blue Point Games is working on the remaster of Infamous for PS4, and the release date will be announced for fall 2017. I hope not. We don't. We're good, man.
Do we really need a remaster of Infamous?
Infamous is great. We're good though. We're good. We don't need that.
I think I'm good with that.
Yeah.
The first Infamous?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah, I'd love that.
Oh, okay. And you're not a remaster guy. That's interesting. I love the first Infamous. That's the best one in the series, but I'm good. I don't need that.
I'd love to replay it. I don't think it's really holding up that well.
I agree with Tony. I do think it's the best in the series. But to be honest, I would much rather them make a really good new Infamous as to just kind of retreading the old guy again. Because I did not find that character at all compelling.
I don't trust them to make a new Infamous.
And I didn't like Troy Baker Infamous either. To be honest, it's like, for me, it's like, in general, it's usually it goes in a couple of levels. Is the character kind of cool? Does he or she look like an interesting person? Then what does the game look like? And what does the gameplay look like?
Yeah,
I don't understand why everybody has beef with Cole. Like, I like Cole.
Cole looks like a fucking bum off the street.
I don't know. I don't know. It just seems like a product of the time. And even then,
look at me.
every single video game character, because they couldn't do hair, they had to be bald or something like that. And then they all have to have. They also go to the Solid Snake school of voice acting, where everybody has to have a gravelly voice.
Yeah.
I got really pissed when everyone was like, "Oh, we should put hair on Cole," or the first Cole who doesn't have hair. It's like, dude, it was caught in a massive explosion. You literally start the game as like a smoldering, burnt piece of shit. Like, how long does it take your hair to grow back? There's a narrative reason why he doesn't have hair, but everybody wants to see this.
They feel like they did that reason because they didn't want to do the hair.
I figured he didn't have any hair because of he's electrical or something like that. Maybe he doesn't have any hair all over his body.
No, it got burned off in the very beginning of the game.
He looked like that before it all got burned off. He was still bald and everything. He didn't have hair. He still looked like a bum before he got hit by electricity.
He looks like a bum.
He looks like a bum.
I don't know. He didn't look like a bum.
We're supposed to rattle these off quickly. Next prediction. Scorpio price point will be $600. No, it's going to be $500.
No,
$600.
I don't think. I mean, dude, unless $600 is like the killing floor right there. Nobody's going to pay that. I think what the Scorpio, again, we've said the Scorpio, I think they're going to try to keep that range of the original Xbox pricing.
Yeah. The
original Xbox One pricing.
Although I wouldn't put it past Microsoft to create a SKU that's 600, but all of them 600, no way. Okay. The last one here, Microsoft.
Go ahead. Do we know how much the Scorpio costs to make?
No. Nobody has done that
We've
yet.
kind of speculated based on the technology that's inside of it.
Ryan, get in here, man.
I have nothing to say. I don't care. 600, hopefully 400, so that it's a good price point, but ultimately it's a crappy PC, so don't care.
There you go. All right. The last thing here, MS and Sony each will announce no fewer than 3 new previously unannounced IPs, with 2 of the 3 games being released in 2018. Sure, why not?
I could say I think Sony learned a lot from the way they revealed Horizon Zero Dawn. They literally showed the game working. They showed a pretty good amount of gameplay working in that, and then they showed even more, and then finished. It was out.
There you go. Less than 2 years, basically.
Rather than being like, hey, like the Order, where it was like they just showed you a funky trailer. The game disappears for like 2 years, and then hey, it's out.
It's crazy. All right. let's get to the questions here. G Megaforce 123. Right, he goes, with games doing free DLC and games selling individual costumes for $7, how is it that publishers decide how much to sell DLC for? Can you still even call it DLC when it has a standalone price of $40? Very interesting. So he's trying to say how do developers determine how much DLC costs?
They try to determine how much dick they can fit down your throat before you get.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
There is no like a studio wide number like, oh hey, costumes are only supposed to cost 99 cents. That's it. No, each one of those guys charge Guilty Gear, Xrd, they don't do costume packs, but they do characters, and the characters are really cheap.
Yeah,
so,
it's all over the board, and this is one of those times when I want to bring up again, and I know I say it a lot. Vote with your wallet. Like, it's a fucking slippery slope. Game developers, like, fucking take Evolve for instance. Like, they want to put in as little money and get as much return back as possible. Like, at the end of the day, this is a business. It involves a lot of creative people with a lot of passion, but it's run by business-minded people. So you kind of have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, as long as if you start blowing all your cash on these like costumes, that means that you're telling the business guys, oh, they're willing to bend over for a Strider costume for Guy in Street Fighter.
And you know the big problem with that I have with this is it's the same incentives. Like, game developers know, oh, you know what people like? Alternate costumes. And the train of thought used to be, you know what we'll do is we'll make it so that when you beat the game, when you put some time into it, we'll reward the players with alternate costumes. So it gives you a carrot on a stick, right? Well, they've since realized that same carrot on the stick can be used instead of extorting time out of you to extort money out of you. And so they're very much trying to do that. The things that used to come as bonuses for like winning the game or beating time trials or even things you can find in the game are now locked behind paywalls. And the more that we accept this and just kind of go, okay, let's see, whatever, I guess this is the way it's always been, the worse that it fucking gets. Like, I still remember, does anybody remember the horse armor fiasco?
Yeah.
For
those of you,
Red Dead?
No, for Bethesda.
Yeah, for Bethesda. It was
Oblivion, right? I believe it was.
Yeah. It was Oblivion. Oblivion came out and they charged like $6 for an aesthetic armor pack for your horse that did nothing.
Does nothing. It doesn't protect your horse or anything.
No, it just looks like it. And people lost their shit. They're like, how are you gonna charge us $7 for this little inconsequential piddle thing? Like, and nowadays people pay $7 per costume pack, whatever. Like, it's very weird how normalized this has become. And I can't help but think it's just that we're getting old and that the younger gamers have always seen it this way. But I
think this is the norm.
Yes,
trust me when I say it's a slippery fucking slope, and they're trying to extort every dime out of you that you can. Think very carefully about what you spend, because you're not only getting that thing, you're telling the developers what you want. And which is unfortunate, because it's gotten to the point where, like, even now they're getting metric feedback on how long you spend on a level, or like Ubisoft's game where they want you to rate fucking missions. Like, that's getting to be a little too much for me, because you're giving them a lot of information on how to just pull more money out of you. But that's going to a hat.
I mean, if you think about it, like, the trophy and achievement system is also an aggregate system to see how much people play.
How far you're getting, which one you're playing,
So that
obviously it's good to know what people are playing, but also there's also the other dark side of that.
Not many people are playing these missions, so let's just go ahead and cut them out and save on developing costs. So
exactly.
I mean, it's so, again, vote with your wallet, vote for the things that you like, and there is a bright side to that. There have been games like Shadow of Mordor where there's an idea that people aren't really sure that's gonna pick up on, and like, you go out and, like, there have been several games where I've not only bought the game, but maybe bought the game for a friend, or bought all the DLC or something like that. There are games in which I feel I've gotten my value, and I want to give more to the developer. And that's actually not very uncommon. I think Brian will back me up on this. A lot of times, especially with PC gamers, like, they'll get a PC game on Steam sale, and if they really like it, they'll generally gift the game to somebody else, or buy a second copy, or talk it up.
I've gifted a lot of games.
Yep,
Yeah.
yes. I got one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's an idea out there which is weird because it's kind of one-sided on the part of the consumers, where a grateful consumer will support your company and they will try and drive money your way. I've bought Blu-rays for movies that I just want to make sure, like I bought Deadpool twice. I got it on a digital copy, and I was like, man, I want the fucking Blu-ray. I'm perfectly happy giving Ryan Reynolds my money for making Deadpool, and I realized about half that money is going into his pocket, and I'm happy about that. Like, I want this to be a commercial success so that they continue to make more of it. So, that's a weird backwards thing I don't understand about developers, is they're taking such an antagonistic approach to their consumer base. Whereas if you have somebody like CD Projekt Red, like, look at the amount of gratitude they get just as a developer for including free DLC and like a beautiful instruction manual. Like, going above and beyond really helps solidify you and get loyalty from your fan base. Believe it or not, gamers are a very loyal bunch. To some people, it may not sound like it, but we're some of the most loyal subset of consumers that you're going to find. If you treat us right, we will in turn treat you right. That's generally how it goes. But then you try and release something like Evolve, or something without a campaign mode, or something that's 90% DLC, and people are going to get pissed.
The Server's Wrath, where they essentially put the real ending of the game in a DLC.
Same thing.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
And Dead Rising 4, same thing. It's both. Capcom's been such a fucking.
Final Fantasy do that? There are people bitching about Final Fantasy 15, saying that the ending is in some DLC.
No, it's not. That's Dead Rising 4. You're thinking about that's the latest game that did that nonsense. All right, let's move on here, man. Do you think the number of recent games that are huge, lengthy, open world epics could start to hurt sales in the industry? After all, I remember when the average AAA game took around 6 to 10 hours to complete, yet now that is starting to become the exception as more and more series are becoming massive, sometimes bloated games that take 40 to 100 hours to complete. This means that a single purchase can keep me playing for way longer, and thus I don't need to purchase as many games. While this is sort of good for the consumer, assuming these large companies maintain their quality levels all the way through, it seems like the industry could be shooting itself in the foot a bit, since you don't need to buy as many games in order to keep yourself entertained.
You get bored.
I slightly agree with the sentiment there, because I just see, as a person who's not fully into, I'm getting blurry, and not fully into the kind of open world thing, I just don't. I feel like everybody is seeing that these massive open world games are doing so well. Everybody's feeling the need to kind of put these games out, rather than kind of putting different types of games. I don't want to see the shooter or the like a game like Uncharted or something like that, those action sorts of games kind of get lost in this kind of open world thing, because everybody feels that every single game has to be a massive world.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I was telling Brett about this, right? Because I played Voodoo Vince, right? And I find old ass fucking game, right? It was so refreshing to me because it was just a very linear 10-hour game. And I realized I miss that type of shit, because every game I'm playing now, even if it's not open world, it's so fucking long. You don't have time to, it's like I could have probably played 20 games if they were made the way they used to be. And the time it's taken me to beat 7 games just this year, because every game's open world, massively, super long hours and stuff. It's like, it gets tiring after a while, man. But at the same time, typically those type of games. Hold on, let me finish. Typically, those kind of games are of the highest quality, so you do want to play them. Because you guys know me. I'll play them, but I'm not really an indie game guy. I know those things are like they're shorter things, but it's like when I go to a movie, right? When I go to a movie, I don't want to see a fucking indie movie. I want to see a big ass blockbuster movie. Same thing when I play a game. I want to play the big blockbuster game, but all those games are like millions of hours. So it's like, fuck, I want to play all these games, but it's hard, man. It's hard. So it's getting frustrating.
But what's hilarious is that those games were considered blockbuster games.
Isn't that funny?
A game like Full Throttle was considered a AAA game. Nowadays, it's seen. Oh, that's a point and click adventure. No, that was a full on game.
Yeah, so I'm definitely getting like tired of it.
We shouldn't be afraid to make smaller experiences. Obviously, to make these things that have these smaller experiences have have a price that matches. Obviously you're not gonna, nowadays if you're paying $60 for a 6 hours game, every single person on the internet will explode and turn into like.
Here's what I find funny. I need to jump on that. Here's what I find funny, right? People are demanding these long ass games, right? They want longer games. Yet, as we've talked about many times, most people don't even finish games. So why the hell do you want a longer game if you're not even going to play most of it anyway? You're going to play 20% of it at most. So I don't really understand that.
I think that you are conflicting. No, you're conflating the two audiences. Because I'm one of those people that says that I like my longer games and I finish my longer games. So I think that the ones
the majority, Brian, you know this, man. Most people don't finish their games.
Yeah, but then like those aren't the same people that like are asking for longer games. It's people that like longer games that are asking for like longer games.
I am.
But the thing is, like, think about it. These are the same people. Like, obviously, Call of Duty is a short game, but the same people who are buying like Assassin's Creed, which is a long game, or even Wildlands, like Adam is playing right now. Those are the same people. They're not going to finish those games, and those are super big games,
Yeah,
but I see what you're trying to say.
I think that just like mixing up like the audiences, because like I've seen guys that have put like thousands of hours in like games, and it's like these guys are always saying like, yeah, I like my longer games. It's like the guys that don't finish the game are like the ones that never say like they want longer games. Like,
I am.
I've never met someone that has turned around and said, hey, you know what? Like, I like this long game. I haven't finished it yet, but I want more long games. It's like,
yes, you have.
We don't really hang out with those type of people,
Yes, you do.
Okay, Brett, you're chomping at the bit there.
Am I on mute? Because I'm fucking. I'm right here, you guys.
It's funny because you're like, I do. We've heard you, man. It's just funny.
Okay, Brett. Yeah. Tell me why. I want to know like your reason why.
Yeah. Okay. So, Brett, just so people understand, so you want longer games that you're not going to finish.
I want longer games that I'm not going to get 100% completion on, absolutely, because I want the choice of what content I choose to engage with and what content not to. A good video game should be like a buffet. Just because you buy a plate doesn't mean that you have to eat to the point where you're fucking sick. Sometimes it just means you get to pick and choose your experience. And I believe that freedom towards the consumer's end of being able to choose your experience is the better option. And I understand, Tony, that you don't like those kinds of experience, but I would postulate that that's because of your OCD compulsion to finish games. You don't like the idea that there's a bunch of content sitting there unused. But I will tell you, in every Assassin's Creed game, like I loved chasing down the shanties. I fucking hated chasing down little bits of story information written down on a piece of paper. But it was my choice if I wanted to chase down the shanties and ignore the other stuff. So I got to make my gaming experience built out of what I wanted to, as opposed to having the content limited just to please other people. And you always have the option to take part in whatever point or whatever content of a game that you want.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's how you see it. I'm like, nope, there is no choice here. It's either.
But to me, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to wrap my head around this. Are you actually advocating everybody should be forced to play shorter games? Because
why would I say that? That's stupid.
I would postulate you don't always need to have a 50,000 hour game. You can have a game that's a smaller and still get value out of it.
Yep, you go.
That's what we're talking about in general. Yes, you can have, but again, I feel like every single person, every single developer out there sees that these open world, massive, stupid games are the thing now, and that's starting to become the norm. And I don't want that to become the norm.
Yeah.
I want there to be 50,000 hour RPGs that you can do mini games where you're just squeezing the milk out of a fucking cow. But at the same time, I would also like to have a smaller experience. And that's one of the things that I enjoyed from from at least from a generation before, even this one. Like sometimes I'll be playing one of those crazy massive games like fucking Nier, like that, or playing, or something like Gravity Rush, but I'll kind of have a breather game like a Full Throttle, which is maybe a 6 hour experience, or some other game.
Yeah, but no, Brett, I gotta go back to what you said. So where in all of this did you get that I said this is what needs to be the norm? Everybody must play the way I play. When did I say shit like that?
Because you're advocating for.
I'm not advocating. I'm telling you what I fucking like. Advocating means I'm telling the industry needs to be this way.
Okay, this is a whole conversation about opinions. So in your opinion,
no, Brett's being a bully.
I'm stopping this shit right now. This gets me pissed off, and Brett, I'm not directing my anger at you. I'm just directing you. How did we get to a point where we have to say, in my opinion, that should be fucking known already from the get-go? You know?
Right, but like I thought this whole conversation was framed in the context of us giving our opinion. So I just kind of
it is our opinion. Yeah, you know.
So I'm not saying like you advocate this. I'm just saying like, so maybe it would be better to say, so you would prefer that games be released shorter with no content so that you don't feel obligated to finish that content.
No, you need content. That's stupid. Like basically what I want is what was their last generation, Dragon Age and Mass Effect, perfect examples, right? You have 40 to 50 hour games with a bunch of side shit, but you can complete all of it, 100% the game in 40 to 50 hours. That's the shit I like. Now you need 120 hours to complete all that shit. It's like, bro, I could have played Mass Effect and, you know, got to see more of the choices and stuff in the same amount of time as it would to play. Now it's to me, it's too much because, you know, like you said, I'm the guy that likes completing games completely, you know, and you make it seem like I'm like the only crazy person. Most of the gamers I know are like that. They like completing games, you know.
I like to complete my games. I mean,
yeah, me too, man.
Why are people bitching about it then? Like that's the thing I don't understand. When people are like, "I like to complete my games, but man, this game is too long." Like, dude, you're just saying like what I literally
half the time they're filling up the game. Like half the time, okay, these guys are filling up the game with fucking
you gotta collect all this extra shit.
Yeah, you don't have to collect the filler.
But if you want to complete it, you have to, man.
But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to. Like you say, I know. Hold on.
I mean, to be honest, if you like a game, why wouldn't you finish it?
Put it in the game for a reason. Put it in there for a reason.
Yeah, let him finish. Go ahead, Brett.
Oh, God damn you all! I just lost my train of thought. Fuck you all.
Oh man, but no, Brett, you were trying to say like you know because you're trying to say you don't have to complete it just because there's all this filler, and I'm saying
no. There's this weird clash in the thought process where you're like, I want to finish this game. I want to complete this game. I like completing this game, but I don't like completing this game. So it's like when you get to the point where you don't like completing it, like I understand like the value of completionist may overshadow the fact that this game has become work, but that's where I get a little off is like, obviously by that simple statement alone, this game has become work. So why bother completing it? Like, in my opinion, a perfect game has a campaign that can be finished in 20 hours and enough bonus content to last you 100. That is a perfect game, in my opinion, because you can just sit down, play through the campaign, get all the good story stuff, but then if you want to be one of those people that branches out and gets all the Easter eggs, there's plenty of content there for you to explore. But it shouldn't, you know, Persona 5 is probably a good example, and I know that everybody loves this game right now, but the game looks like it takes fucking forever just to complete on the most basic level. So you don't have the option to be like, I'm a working ass adult who wants to plow through this so I can get to my next game. Even with Zelda right now, I have the option of running around, exploring stuff, and then as soon as I start to get bored, I'm like, I'll defeat the 4 beasts and then Ganon, and then boom, I'm done. Like, I have the option to jump back on that fast track or keep playing on the side, and that's what I think is important. But it baffles me where in one sentence you guys will talk about wanting and enjoying to complete a game, or wanting to and enjoying completing a game, but then obviously not enjoying it at the same time.
You know, this is the example I brought up before, right? I like hamburgers, right? You give me 3 hamburgers, that'll be good enough for me to feel nice and filled, right? But then what if you bring me fucking 6 hamburgers? I'm like, oh fuck, now I gotta finish all this shit. By the time I get to that 4th one, I'm like, I'm good, but I gotta finish now. I paid all this money, you know.
Okay, so what if you went to a restaurant where you have 2 restaurants then, one that serves hamburgers in 3s and the other one that serves hamburgers in 6s, and they're both just as good and they both cost the same amount of money? Why, if you were bringing both you and your friends to a restaurant, why would you not go to the place that serves you 6 hamburgers? Because you may only eat 3, your buddy Tom may eat 4, your buddy Gerald may eat 6, your buddy Mike may eat 12 and order fucking 2 orders, but that way you may have left on your plate, but nobody goes hungry. But
I've never heard of a single player game where you could bring your friends to help you with all the side quests.
No.
That would be great, wouldn't
more in the sense that other people are playing this game.
You collect these flags for me, man.
Borderlands. Borderlands.
That's
you can do
that's
that.
remote
No,
play.
but Brad, it would be more like why? Okay, because it's a single person experience, right? Why would I go to the place that serves you 6 hamburgers for $6 when I could just go to the place with 3 hamburgers for $6? I'd rather go to that place, because that's
You would rather pay the same amount of money for less content and then have everybody be locked into that same choice, though.
I never said. Why are you coming up with everybody? I'm talking about me personally, dude. Like I don't have magical powers to make the entire industry go to my whim. I don't know why you keep saying, "Oh, Tony,
You know what?
change it for
Tony,
everybody."
Brett, why are you being so mean to him?
Shut the fuck up,
No.
Adam.
I feel like picking on Tony.
Bully.com over
No,
here.
but I'm trying to understand your mindset. Like, why do you keep bringing it back to, "Oh, Tony, you're advocating that this radical change affects everybody"? When the fuck did I say that?
Because so I guess what you're saying is this is what I would like, although it would never happen, and I would never wish any of this would happen. Whereas I'm coming more from like a where should the games be? Where should they come from? So I'm kind of coming at it from a what's going to make everybody happy as opposed to what's just going to make me happy and what's going to make.
We're coming at it from two different things. We're talking about because I thought we were talking about what each of us likes personally. I'm not advocating this, that, or the other thing. So I think because you think I'm talking about it the way you are, that's why you're like, this is for everybody. But yeah, I'm not talking. Fuck everybody. I don't give a fuck about everybody else. I'm talking about me right now. This is how I would like it to be, and I just realized it's not going to be that way. So I just gotta suck it up and just again. It's like having sex with a gorilla. You ain't done until the gorilla's done. So just keep going. I figured that with Mass Effect. I'm 60 hours in. I'm like, I like this game, but I don't want to keep playing it right now. I want to play something else, but it's got me. I have no fucking choice but to ride this shit out right now. That's just how games are.
That's the moment for me. When the moment that these things start to become work, that's when I start to try to just go play through the storyline of a game, or try to complete it, because I hate because I like that happened to me with I really like the infamous DLC game, right? I really enjoyed the story and stuff. That's that. But then there's this whole aspect of it where you have to beat up a certain amount of people or punch these, and I was just like, oh come on, we don't need this.
Yeah. But here's the thing:
this is just working. This is
people are going to ask Tony, like people are going to go, Tony, why put yourself there? Because there is no greater feeling than when you beat the game and you see that 100%. You're like, I went through all this trouble, but fucking, I got that 100%. There is no greater feeling than that. So that's what makes it worth it to me.
To me, the act of completing, like doing 100% completion shouldn't feel exactly like work. But I feel like a lot of companies forget how, when it comes to making these side missions to all kinds of other things to kind of extend the gameplay, I think that's the moment where these companies forget what fun is.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. That's why I loved Horizon Zero Dawn. I was able to do every single side mission in there, get the platinum in about 50 hours, and I never felt exhausted. I'm like, okay, you guys hit that Tony balance just nice, But yeah, I think we're just going to see more and more behemoth games,
But again, I don't want to see. As I know everybody hates the fucking Order, but I still want to see games like the Order exist.
Me too.
I know that I know it's not 100 fucking hours. It's not an openly expansive world, but I liked the world of the Order. I liked Galahad as a fucking post, but I did like the other characters that were in the game, and I wanted to see where things were going to go. I liked their fucking goofball alternate history with Steam and shit. Yeah. So I like, and I liked the dopey like having a machine gun in the in like the 1800s or some shit, or even the 1700s. I don't know.
Victorian era, that early 800s.
The Victorian era. I dug that silly that stuff to it.
Totally got machine guns then.
So I feel like we should. I just don't want the openly expansive world where to be the only game that every single studio makes.
Well, couldn't there be a middle ground though? Because I think the reason people got pissed off about the Order, myself included, is it's like a 5 to 6 hour game. Like if it were a 12-hour game, I don't think anybody would be really bitching and complaining. But the thing was,
it took me 12 hours to complete it. The first time around, I think I probably put about 20 hours into that game total to get the platinum.
Which game?
The Order.
1886.
Remember you guys? Who was it? There was somebody who was bullying me on that. Remember to go back and get all the the trophies. I beat it, and they were like, "Oh, you can do all the weapons." That was it, and it doesn't have a tracking system.
Yeah, you got to
Let
get
me get
track of it
So
yourself.
I'm like,
yeah.
shit. So I just fuck it. Let me just go through it, and it's probably about another 2 hours, and then I got it.
Yeah. Anyway, bring it on. Yeah.
Oh, I was just saying, like it's that thing was about the size of a DLC, and it was clearly a tech demo to showcase the power of the PS4. That it ended off
It wasn't
unsatisfying.
that short. It was short, but it wasn't that short.
Yeah. No, it took me about like 10, 12 hours to beat it the first time around.
It wasn't that short.
Yeah, okay. I don't think that people have a problem.
With you.
What's that?
I'm right there with you.
Okay, thanks.
But alternatively, you talk about a game like Gears of War, which is also cut from the same cloth. How many of those games do you see?
Yeah, you don't see that anymore.
Other than the actual Gears of War that came out,
dude, I remember I played Gears of War Remastered, right? I played Gears of War Remastered in 2015, right? That was the first year where I started really complaining about all these open world games. Gears of War 1 was such a refreshing experience. Like, oh my god, I didn't have to go through all this bullshit. I just played the game. It was awesome, So
but
yeah,
I mean,
you're right. You don't see those anymore.
But again, a lot of these games are phasing this sort of stuff out.
Quantum Break, another one. I like Quantum Break because it was one of those type of games. It wasn't this massive open world shit.
Great example. I loved Force Unleashed. Force Unleashed is not an open world game, but you could approach every situation in the game a little bit differently. Same with very linear game with multiple options to play it differently, which encourages replay value or customization of play style. Like, I think that when I'm talking about a lack of content in the order, I'm not just talking about the length. I'm talking about, the enemies use the same tactics. It's everything is very, very, very scripted and very rigid and locked in place. If you could have given me, bonus weapons or, side paths or Easter eggs, anything to help increase the amount of content in the game, or even replayability, then that would be a thing. Put a couple options in there and some branching storylines that force me to play the game twice to see, all of the stuff, and boom, you've got yourself an answer. The problem was there just literally wasn't that much content. So much of the money and development time went into polishing every single item so you could turn it around and look at it glinting. It was a showcase to show the power of the system more than a standalone game in and of itself. Now, if you would have stapled that on with some additional content or included the DLCs in it and just said that was the game in and of itself, I think you would have had a completely different reaction. But it was the fact that it was borderlining on one of these shorter games to come out in recent years, and for a full-size price tag, it wasn't enough experience to merit the cost, and that's why a lot of people got so pissed off. Nobody's saying that we should get rid of the Uncharted kind of thing. Although it's not my brand, like I hate when I walk into an area and I'm like, oh hey, look, cover. I wonder if there's going to be a gun battle. But,
well, that happens with Last of Us. I laughed at that one in Last of Us. Like, it's this big old story-driven sort of game, and it's like, okay, they're giving me the tour of the room, and all of a sudden I see all these fucking bottles and shit all shimmering and light. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is the gameplay area they're walking me through.
So I think sometimes that can be a little heavy-handed, but I don't think anybody wants to see story narrative-driven games being pushed away. And these games, a lot of times, yes, you do lose something by going open world because you essentially, it's like firing the director. One of the reasons that I think that Zelda works, and I keep bringing up Zelda, and I've talked to Tony about this, is the world building on that is masterful. Like it's almost akin to the way a comic artist uses visual flow. You don't know that they're pulling your eyes this way, but they do a great, like, you come around this path and there's a big reveal and there's a plateau there, and they know, and they're putting these little bits in front of you that are going to make you want to explore, be like, I wonder what's up there, I wonder what's over there. So I think how you approach the content is really of vital importance. Like, you can't just open the world, throw in a bunch of side quests, and call it done. Dragon's Age was a very padded game, but at the same time, I don't think that you necessarily I don't think we need to lose the idea of the director controlling the action. if you're going to have an open world game, you have to have the world built in such a way like Dark Souls or Zelda, where the world itself tells you the story. And so you don't necessarily need somebody to direct the action. But a game like Bayonetta or Devil May Cry or God of War or any of that kind of thing, like that is, they're trying to bring an experience to you. It's the equivalent of a movie. And this is one of the things I've even thought about, like, what about when we take movies into VR? Like, that's going to make a big problem for directors because they're not going to be able to pigeonhole you into seeing something the way that they want you to see it.
Hey, man, that's not familiar.
That sounds very familiar because that's what they were talking. A lot of some of the conversation that was happening yesterday at the Games Festival, where essentially the director of the director of Edge of Tomorrow was messing with was doing some VR stuff, and he's like, yeah, that's the one. He's like, I really like VR because it's kind of a new set of rules. He's like, essentially, I don't have control over what I may have my narrative happening, but that doesn't mean that the guy is not just turned around and looking at something else while this sort of stuff is happening. And Ken Levine chimed in. He also pulled up Zelda as that sort of situation where it's like you have this open environment, and then you have these narrative points, and you can actually direct them to go to these things by not directing them totally. You give them the clues, or you give them the things, the carrot on the stick to go in that direction, and tell them how to tell them how to get there, in a subtle sort of way, rather than hitting them over the head and being like, all right, that's the waypoint. You go from here and you go there.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on because we got a ton of shit here.
We got a ton of questions.
Okay, the last one from Mr. G Megaforce. Is there a game you're embarrassed to admit you love? We talked about this before, so we can do it quickly. No, every game I've bought, I've been proud of.
Here's the thing. There are some games that people would say that I should be embarrassed that I
yes, I've heard that many times. Yeah,
like I would say again, I bring up the game The Bouncer. I like that game. I really like the game Murder Sold Suspect, which got totally panned. To be honest, I liked that game.
Hey, I like The Order. Motherfuckers give me shit about.
Yeah, the same thing. The Order. I like The Order 1886.
I like Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Oh no, Adam, they got you, son.
Yo,
I think I could top y'all.
Uh-oh.
I've put in 400 hours into Awesome Knots.
Oh my god!
Wow.
But the thing is, isn't that actually a good game?
Yeah,
you reviewed it. I don't think you liked it though.
No, I didn't like it, but I know. But it is like a good game,
It's good. It's just really addicting.
Yeah.
I played way too much Animal Crossing.
Oh,
yeah,
but
that's
embarrassing.
That's embarrassing.
I
wouldn't
consider. I still play No Man's Sky once in a while.
Oh shit! See, there you go. Hey, again, at least the first 30 hours of it, I still like No Man's Sky.
I think that what a person likes individually shouldn't really quantify as anything. Just because a game gets a bad review doesn't mean that you yourself won't exactly like that sort of game.
Well, are we talking about bad reviews, or are we talking about
no?
That's why I said
just games that are just considered like, oh man, why would you like that shit?
Do any of you like any real little kid games?
Mario.
Yeah, not really an embarrassment.
Well, I like Pokemon games.
Oh yeah,
I mean, people will probably look. Well, I mean, then again, that's nowadays. I mean, maybe if it was like 2000, the year 2000, and you were the age that you are now, people will look at you like, "What the fuck is that guy playing?"
He's playing a video game.
He's playing a video game. How come he's not taking care of his kids?
Yo, Carlos, where did I review Awesome Knots? Was it on SCFU? Because
I think it was STFU.
I gotta look back. I'm like, I don't remember. I remember playing the game. I don't remember writing about it.
I think also at that, I think at that point in time when Tony was playing Awesome Knots, he had what I call indie game vendetta, which is like
did I have a vendetta? What the? What the hell did Torrance do to SCFU and play?
It's gone, dude.
No, he was supposed to leave it. What the fuck he must have sold it.
Nah, he didn't. Yeah,
anyway, Yeah, but anyway, I never had a vendetta against indie games. What are you talking about?
Yo, man, you didn't like. You're like, man, these indie games are stupid.
I never said that. I was playing a bunch of indies. My thing with Awesome Knox was because I expected it to be a side-scrolling shooter, and then it turned out to be what I would learn would be a MOBA. I was like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, I want to play a Mega Man game. What is this nonsense? You know? So
like
that was my problem with it.
It's like a side-scrolling MOBA.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, and that's why I learned. Oh, I don't like MOBAs. I
think in general, everybody in here just is not embarrassed about the games that they play. But no. I do feel like people would judge you on your judge you more on the games that you like.
Yeah, but again, I'm not embarrassed. I like what I like. Based
on popular opinion or reviews.
Yeah,
you know.
All right. I think everybody went here. So moving on here, Mr. Roman Ronan. All right, Carlos, I know you're gonna like this one, man. Which do you prefer for anime, subs or dubs?
I mean, is there any other option?
Yeah, there is. Of course there is.
I'll fight you on this one.
Yeah. By the way, I actually like the second part of his question even more, but let's answer the first one. So, you guys know me, man. When I watch anime, I like to watch anime. I don't want to read anime. So I like, I prefer the dubs, for sure. Manny, what about you?
I would say I'd prefer the dubs, but in certain situations, I feel like a sub, sub also works too. But like I can't watch a lot of anime with subs, which is now a lot of the anime on Netflix. So
yeah, obviously, by the way, just to clarify, I will obviously watch anime in sub if it's not available in dub.
Like
I don't have a problem with it.
For the movie for Gurren Lagann, I really hate the dubbed voices for that show. They suck. Like it's just, they do not match the intensity and how the voices at all. But that's one instance in years of subs.
Yeah. So Manny, that's your answer to the second part of the question. Is there an exception to the rule?
Yeah, the exception of the rule is Gurren Lagann, and I kind of like watching, obviously, Japanese and like things that take place in a Japanese sort of setting, like samurai Japanese stuff, or like stuff that's like ninja shit in Japanese for some reason. I don't know. I just feel it kind of fits it.
You know, Brett, go ahead, man. Like, I know you want to jump in here.
I'm the same as you. Like, I love visually, it's the eye candy. But like, I'll a lot of times watch an anime several times because I'm a huge animation nerd, and that's something I've been coming to find out more and more. Like, man, I do love me some comic books. I do love me some video games. Animation is the thing that's always kind of struck my passion. Like, I love watching a scene in an anime, and I watch an anime a lot like I read a book too. Like, I'll watch through a scene and then I'll rewind it and watch the scene again, and like, how you get to book, you're like, oh man, that part was badass, and you read that paragraph again.
It's also, I mean, at least for me, it's the allure of essentially something that's been drawn by hand that's moving.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, just a bunch of guys got into a room, and they're the things that they're drawing make the thousands of drawings that they've made are made into a film.
Yeah, from a technical aspect, from an existential aspect, like all of it's amazing. That's one of the reasons I can't stand the computer generated anime.
Oh God, yeah.
All you plebs that are watching this shit with subtitles, you're doing it wrong.
Have you seen Knights of Sidonia? That's pretty good.
No.
Knights of Sidonia doesn't look right to me, because it suffers from what it suffers from what it's trying to do. It's trying to emulate two-dimensional animation rather than actually just being something that's CG. I think I put Gantz against Knights of Sidonia because at least Gantz is at least being what it does best. It's being a CGI film rather than trying to replicate like hand-drawn animation.
Well, then again, one of the best CG like anime movies is Advent Children.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
I think I think that for obviously CGI can do things that a lot of two-dimensional animation can do, but I feel like why should you try to replicate a hand-drawn aesthetic when you can create some sort of crazy new aesthetic for this CGI? You know?
CGI can't do what good anime does, in my opinion. And that's forced perspective, dramatic foreshortening, extreme camera angles. Like, I've been watching Fairy Tail lately. It's honestly, it's not great, but it's not bad.
No, it's
but
decent.
The animation in it is where it gets me, because they do those, real extreme, like somebody will come punching at somebody and you'll see like the camera kind of like flying past their face, and then it'll zoom in on their fist, and then it'll whip around and like punch somebody in the face, and they everything slows down for a minute. And I'm a huge sucker for time dilation.
There's a the Gravity Rush anime is, and there's this one really great short which is called like Video Girl or something like that, which they've really been able to kind of capture that the two-dimensional animation feel. It's because they're not using calculated keyframes. They're essentially they'll essentially do a rough pass, where they're and then they'll have in between animators essentially fill in the spaces, as opposed to having do it digitally.
Yo, Carlos, what are you doing on your end, bro? What is that noise?
I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like you're rubbing up on something. Yeah, you hear it too, right? And then his picture always pops up when that noise comes up. But anyway, but yeah, let's go. Actually, Brian, you have a rebuttal for what Brett said?
Subs all the way, because I feel like with dubs, they don't sound as if they care enough. Like what they're saying doesn't match up with what's going on screen sometimes, and just becomes a bit weird. It's like the lines are said with not the level of intensity that you expect them to be. Like if someone's angry, then like you'll know that they're angry. But yet with dubs, it's kind of like they don't sound like they're angry. You just sound like they're just reading off a line saying, "Oh, now I'm mad." Like,
I disagree.
I don't like that. I watched all of Bleach in subs, and then I watched back the dubs, and the dubs are just terrible.
Always watch the dubs first, because the subs are going to have better voice acting. But when you watch the subs,
Brett,
yes,
I feel like that Dragon Ball is the one exception. I feel like with that they've done a good job.
But everything else, I can't watch dub or sub Dragon Ball. Everybody sounds really weird.
Here's the thing, like I love them both. Like I thought that the dubs and the subs are like they are doing well. Like they both have the intensity of like what's going on.
I also think it has to do with some of the actors. Like I feel like when you're talking Johnny Young Bosch, or you're talking like the guy who plays Edward Elric, they're usually able to kind of match that crazy intensity of the thing. That's one of the things that that's why I always put Gurren Lagann up there. I feel like Kamina, the guy who plays him in the American one, it's just the dub is just bad. It's just like he just is weak compared to the original guy.
Yeah. By the way, I need to jump in real quick. Brian, it's interesting you mentioned Bleach, because I watched all of Bleach in subtitle, and I watched all of it dubbed. I prefer the dubbed one. I was like, well, this is more enjoyable to me. But it's more
in general.
Yeah, I do. And even when Attack on Titan, I enjoyed it more because I was able to focus more on the story. I picked up certain things. Like it was just a better experience. But again, it's just a personal thing, obviously.
I actually haven't seen Attack on Titan in English. The only version of Attack on Titan I've seen, not in English, but not the one. The only one that's available as of for a while is the one that's on Netflix, and you cannot switch that one into the dubbed.
Well,
and I think
I need Hulu for that shit.
And that's the sneaky shit that fucking Funimation is doing. Yeah. What they're doing is because they have their deal with Crunchyroll, or the pay version of Crunchyroll. You can get all their dubbed versions on there, as opposed to something like Netflix. So most of the stuff they have Funimation shit on there, but it's all the subbed versions of it.
Thank you for telling me. I will not watch any of that shit on Netflix.
But it's like a catch-22 as to which ones are dubbed or which ones are subbed. You have to kind of look in there and see it.
Yeah, Chris, get in here, man. What do you prefer?
Well, it depends. Like, I'm watching Attack on Titan right now, and because I'm trying to keep up with the release, I'm watching the subtitle one. But like you say, I really prefer the dub because I have to read everything. So I'm sitting there reading and trying to pay attention to stuff. And Attack on Titan gets actiony a lot of times.
Yeah,
and they're yelling and shit. So I don't know. It gets distracting a lot. Like, I do like the Japanese voice acting better. I just wish I knew Japanese so I didn't have to read everything.
Yeah.
But so to enjoy it, sometimes I need a dub.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing I always tell people, because people always on both sides, they go, the subtitle guys go, oh, this is the real way to watch it because that's the way it was meant to be. Those are the actual voices. The dub guys go, oh no, it was not supposed to have all that shit on the bottom. This is the real way to watch it. You know what the real way to watch anime is? Learn Japanese and watch the originals. That's
because
yeah.
You know what? In both situations, localization has to happen.
Exactly.
If you were to ever to translate Japanese as it is, as in the order that all the words are supposed to be, you would probably not understand what it says. It's in English, but
translate
it's not.
Translate something.
Here, hold on.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, translate something Japanese into English from Google. That's what you're gonna get. You know, go ahead.
It's usually worse because Google's actually somewhat localizing it.
Go ahead, Brett.
This is actually a perfect thing. My point. I think y'all misunderstood when I said that if you're watching it subbed, you're doing it wrong. The proper way to watch a subbed anime, in my opinion, is with both the subtitles and American closed captioning on, because you will get two completely different lines. I'm not even talking, read different or worded different. I'm talking the intent and the difference between the things that you'll read is, quite frankly, I found staggering. So if you're trying to truly understand the motives and the ideas behind the things that are being said, then you honestly need to read both the American closed caption or your standard and your subtitled, because the subtitled will sometimes say things that it doesn't really express very well through a cultural difference, and so you'll pick up that difference on the American closed caption version, or you'll see them read something on the American closed caption version and you'll get more insight when you read the subbed version. But then you're being kind of a weeaboo and reading two sets of subtitles for everything that's going on.
Yeah,
so my preferred way to watch an anime is to watch the whole thing subbed, dubbed, because it generally doesn't have as good a voice acting. And then on the second run through, I'll actually try and dig more into the story, figure out all the things I lost, all the nuance that got lost in translation, which I can find by reading both versions of subtitles, as well as hear different emotion in the voice actors. So you get a lot more information the second way, but it's a lot prettier the first way. So the first time I go through eye candy wise, and then if there's story worth digging into, or I want to get a better idea of the characters and their relationships, then I'll go through and watch it, double subbed.
Yeah, Adam, what about you, man?
I guess dubbed, because I usually like to multitask, walk around, do other things. So if I could just hear, because I'm not sitting in front of the screen and reading it, so I'm walking around and all of a sudden, hey, what do we do? I'm like, what the fuck? I have to run back because I think something crazy is happening. So it's better if it's dubbed. It might not sound great, but I'm really there for the animation and the style. So
yeah,
you can live as a human and not as a vampire.
Now let's get to the fun part here. So everybody, I gave your answers, right? What is the exception to the rule? I have my exception to the rule.
I didn't give an answer.
Motherfucking Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. I will not watch that shit dubbed. No way, no how. Not only is the voice acting fucking terrible, but they changed all the fucking music. That's the worst thing, man.
Yeah, they changed. They essentially changed all the music. But you know why that happened, right?
Yeah, because they probably couldn't afford the music, right?
Exactly. The thing about the thing. This is me knowing, because I worked in a studio that handled localization of animated Japanese animated shows. It can be a lot more expensive if they if they brought over the music as well as sound effects. So like, you ever notice sometimes, like, in maybe like older incarnations of Dragon Ball Z, all the sound effects are all off and weird. It's because they essentially, especially with certain sound effects, they have to go and pay the original company or the sound or the for the music, have to pay the composer to use use this sort of content. But the thing is, the reason why, especially for airplay, you don't want to buy that content. Because what you can do is because whenever you translate an animated show, right, because it's all done out of the Screen Actors Guild, there is no residuals that come from re-showing it on TV. So let's say we're talking about Macross, right, or Robotech. The company, if they put it out on TV as is, they would not make money off of those additional re-showings of those movies. Of those shows, because they don't own any of the rights to any. They don't own the rights to the footage, and it was all done on non-guild. But if they redo all the music, that means that there needs to be a residual payment to the composer, and that's how they'll make extra money. So any reruns of Pokemon, the company who originally did the localization will get the money off of that. And because
I do need to add this. Recently, they did release a version of Street Fighter, the animated movie, with the original music, right? But it still has that really, because back in the 90s, man, like, okay, oh my gosh, Streamline Cinemas, they did really good dubs, right? Back in the 90s, a lot of dubs were fucking terrible. That was one of them. The ADV shit. Oh my god, it was terrible. So
and
that
manga was hit.
Yeah, manga did that one. That's right. Manga did that one. Oh man, that was bad. That was bad.
Manga video was always hit or miss. Sometimes they had good shit, and then sometimes you get shit like fucking Fatal Fury.
Yeah, man. But so yeah, that's the exception rule. And the other, it's not really exception. I'll watch it in English now. I've learned to. But Dragon Ball Z, if you put the sub version on, I will not object to that, because that's how I remember watching Dragon Ball Z back in the day. You know, you know, so if you put on sub Dragon Ball Z for me, no problem at all, you know. But yeah, Street Fighter, no, I'm not watching that shit dubbed. Get that shit out of my face.
So yeah, that one is
get that shit out of my face. Go ahead, Carlos. No, hold on. Carlos first, and then you, Brett. Go ahead, Carlos. What's your question?
I never. No, it's not a question. I never answered the question. So just to give my answer, because this shit's gonna blow up. Like, I prefer subs because most of the voice acting done in the dub English anime is just pure shit. Like,
yeah, well, your opinion,
like,
you know.
Like, yeah, in my opinion, of course. Like, we talked about this earlier with Brett. It's your opinion. All right. So the reason why is because they all fall into the same trap of like the anime voice, like the anime character voice. It's like they don't talk like people talk. They talk like what they think people are supposed to talk in an anime. So it's like a subset of a subset. It's like, so are we gonna go get this thing, guys? I don't think we're gonna go over here.
That's why I think that Johnny Young Bosch works, because he doesn't sound like he's doing a voice.
Here's the thing, Carlos. So just to expand on it, because Brett and I were talking about this, right? Here's my problem with it. I don't mind those quote unquote anime voices, but I'm like, it's 2017. We don't need to do that anymore. There was this one anime we covered on fucking Death Parade. We covered that on Otanime, right? That was like one of the few anime dubs that I saw there. I'm like, oh my god, they're not doing anime voices. They're just talking like regular people. So I think, you know, anime, you know, dubbed anime has just gotten stuck into this trap of like, okay, these are anime voices. This is what we need to do. Somebody needs to go in and be like, hey guys, talk normal. Just talk like you normally do. And I think that will work better, you know?
I think also with like whenever they do the Ghost in the Shell ones, I always think that those guys are pretty good, with the exception of their boss. He sounds like he's doing a voice, but like the major, I think her English voice is really good. Same thing with Bato and some of the supporting cast. But yeah, the old man, he's like, hey, I'm an old guy, doing an old man voice.
And then the rasp. What is Americans do this too? What is up with the raspy voice kids? Like, it's weird. But the thing is, like, okay, in real life, you've never heard a raspy voice kid, but in cartoons, it works somehow. Like Ash, you know, like, hey, Pikachu, you know, it's weird.
And also, like, one thing that throws me the hell off is when they keep the names, right? So it's like, so are we gonna go to this place, Mr. Kusaragi? And I'm like, all right, man, that's enough. Like, enough of this bullshit.
Oh man. I would. My only issue with that is if they don't have somebody in there to teach them how to say the name correctly.
Yeah, say the name right. Remember Kaneda back in the day? Kaneda.
Kaneda, it's too strong for you.
So maybe, and also I might be biased because Spanish is my first language, right? So how we pronounce Spanish in my so like how we pronounce Spanish words is more towards the way Japanese sounds.
Yeah.
Yes. So have you ever listened to a Spanish dub?
Dude,
the Spanish dubs are fucking awesome. Like, I mean, well, actually, no. Latin American dubs are better than really
right. Not Spanish.
Not the Spanish ones.
Those are bullshit. Yeah,
I
agree.
But I used to watch Voltron and shit. That was all in fucking Spanish.
Dragon Ball Z is awesome in Spanish, man.
Yeah, and that was going to be my answer for the second part. Dragon Ball Z, the definitive version for me is in Spanish.
Oh shit.
It's too good, and they have the emotion that the Japanese voice actors put into the characters. So
It's the same thing with FIFA. I know a lot of people that play FIFA in Spanish with the Spanish commentary just to hear "Go!"
All right, Adam, what's your exception to your rule? Do you have one?
For what? For the
What's the one anime you will not watch dubbed?
Nope. Don't care.
Okay, no exceptions.
As long as there's no exception. As long as it's dubbed.
All right, Brett, you have an exception to your rule?
I've had several, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. I would say the bigger exception to my rule, since I don't necessarily have a rule in, is there are several animes that I just cannot fucking watch subtitled because I feel like the voice acting is so horribly trope. Like, and it's interesting that Carlos brought that up because I'm kind of on the opposite side of the fence. Like, I hate in an anime when somebody steps out, they're like, "Oh, welcome," and you're like, "Oh, there's the bad guy." Fucking voice gives it like it's.
Oh yeah, they're like they have the I know to dog, like they sound like that, right?
Yeah. So like I kind of feel like a lot of subtitle anime, like the Japanese voice acting, like, and I realize it's a cultural thing, but they identify characters so much through the voice that it almost becomes trope and kind of overshadows the characters themselves.
But that's part of the character. Like that's what they're trying to convey on the show.
Yeah, and I know sometimes they're like, "Oh, he's got a bad guy voice," but later you're gonna find out he's not a bad guy. But like, you see through that shit so easily. Like I've gotten plot spoilers from watching, just hearing the voices, the actual voices of characters.
Like, I mean, like if you listen to Vegeta in Japanese, he has the bad guy voice.
Yeah. Kakaroto. Super no Saiyajin.
I will say, kind of while I'm on the subject, because I've been watching Fairy Tail, like the English dubs on that are surprisingly Japanese. Like people have those very kind of almost anime voices, where they go real high pitch or they go real low, and that they actually carried that over into the English version, which I kind of found a little bit weird. They did the same thing with Aladdin. So sometimes like I get when it's important to the character, and I appreciate that they excuse me, not Aladdin, Magi. Oh god, that fucking pisses me off.
Magi?
All right, we got to move on a little bit. Brian, what's your exception to your rule, man?
There is no exception to the rule.
All right, so subs or die.
My man.
Pretty much so.
All right,
Like
Chris.
I can't,
Yeah.
like I can't stand dubs.
Yeah.
Like I guess Dragon Ball
Dragon
Z, but ultimately, no, I can't. It sounds weird.
Brian, question: is there such thing as English dubs? Like,
Oi, I'm Goku. I am.
No.
Well, one of them would be manga because manga is a British company, right?
We get stuck with the Americans. It's quite bad. But hey,
I would love to hear like a show that's like there's just British people.
Well, just get all the clips with Vegeta on it. Vegeta speaks with an English accent.
Damn it, it's escaping right now. But there was one anime that has like an American dubbed and an English dub.
Well, there are actually multiple ones because Gurren Lagann, I think in England it has a different company. I think Manga handled it over there, and they have a different version. Same thing. There's different versions of Dragon Ball Z too, where there's different.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yes, right. All right, Chris, what's your exception to your rule?
Oh, I have to listen to sub classic stuff like Dominion Tank Police and original Guyver. I mean, Guyver, talk about low energy voice acting, man. English was terrible.
They're almost like I feel like for a lot of those old ones, it's like they were in a lounge room and they're just getting them to do that. Like, I decided to walk into this room.
I know, and meanwhile, you flip to Japanese and they're fucking screaming, and that they put passion in it, man. So
can we agree that like just old voice acting, American voice acting, or old dubs are bad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course.
Like,
No one's gonna debate that.
Like I pretty much prefer dubs myself because I like looking at the pretty action. But like I cannot watch Akira in
Did you watch
Yeah,
the
the
new?
original
Did you
one,
watch?
man.
Did you watch the?
The original one's pretty lousy.
Yeah,
but
the original one's bad. But did you watch the new one where they actually say, Canada, like there's a post?
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's
dude.
another dub. Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a new dub.
there was the original one that was done by Streamline, and then there's the Pioneer dub, which has a lot of more recent guys like
Johnny on Bosch, man.
Johnny on Bosch is Kaneda, and I think it's one of the dudes from Digimon.
Yeah.
Who's,
Okay.
Canada.
Yeah.
Kaneda.
Same with, what is it, Samurai X? Like, don't watch the dubbed version of Samurai X.
Oh yeah, or Kenshin. Yeah, that one's pretty
All right,
bad.
let's move on. We still got 13 questions to go.
13 questions to go.
Okay, I'm playing through Horizon Zero Dawn, at least level 30 or so. One thing that is both frustrating yet satisfyingly believable is the difficulty in taking down machines, especially packs of shellwalkers and glinthawks. What do you consider to be the most valuable skills for surviving in Horizon? Get that motherfucking hook shit. I forgot what it's called. That thing will make
The rope caster?
Yeah, ooh,
The rope
man, that thing will
caster,
make
yeah.
every battle
Yeah.
easy. Those
And-
glinthawks tie those motherfuckers to the ground and go to town on them. You know?
Don't confuse the rope caster with a trip caster either.
Yeah, different
No,
things. Yeah, rope caster for sure.
Get
That's
the
like
rope
the main
caster,
thing.
put upgrades on it,
Yep.
tear and that stuff.
Yes.
And yeah.
Dude, this is what I did with rope caster. This is how badass I felt. Okay, remember that one it burrows into the ground and shit, that one robot?
Yeah.
First time you fought that thing during like a side mission, that thing fucked me up, right? Dude, this is how badass I got by the end of it with a rope caster. I took down two of them like nothing, like tie those bitches down and had tear
Even Thunderjaws, the
Yep.
T-Rex.
Tie 'em down.
Tie them down, man. Yeah.
Yeah, rope caster for sure.
What if they actually made a game where you hunt real animals? Would that mean that PETA would go insane?
Of course. I mean, look what happened with Tekken. They got rid of the fucking kangaroo now because of PETA.
Come on.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Does it have to be
What happened, Brett?
does it have to be a weapon, or does it
No, it could be any skill.
I would say the improved roll, the one where it lets you change.
That's a good one.
That should have been in the game from the very beginning, because like as soon as you unlock that, you're just like, okay, finally I can fucking dodge around like I'm not retarded, and I can judge distance.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the other one I would choose, I chose this one early too. Longer, like when you were like aim the bow, like it slows down time. Extend that shit to get more shots in.
Yep.
All right.
I would say the ability to run faster. Oh wait, that doesn't exist in that game.
Yeah, it does. You click on L3, man.
No, faster than that.
And you want to go fast.
I want to go fast, man.
All right. Next.
I want my character to run as fast as a fucking car.
Man, even Solid Snake doesn't even run that fast.
Oh no, his fast run is fast. That's a fast run right there.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna move on to some questions from the YouTube comments section. All right.
Yo.
Alt. Damn it! This is the first guy. Alt Jira 2. He goes, this is a good one too. If you were the director of a God of War movie, who would you cast as Kratos? He goes, I would pick Jimon Hansu. Here's the thing: Jimon Hansu looks like Kratos, but the thing is, he's black. Like I know Kratos is always voiced by a black guy, but Kratos is a Spartan, a Greek guy.
You know what?
You know who I'm gonna pick. You know who I'm picking right the fuck. Because think about it. Jimon Hansu would look good with the paint, with white paint. What about the cuts? What about the background scenes? Like before he became Kratos. The God of War or whatever.
Are you saying Vin Diesel?
I'm going straight to Vin Diesel. He looks like fucking Kratos. Yeah, get him.
And plus, he has the family thing down.
The Rock.
Like the Rock.
Yeah, he does have Brian firmly.
Firmly. Or you
Firmly.
can go with The Rock, because he's literally built like the fucking video
Rock
game
could work.
character.
Rock could work. But the thing is, Vin Diesel,
The Rock.
like Vin Diesel has like Kratos' face. You know what I'm saying? That's why I went for. But The Rock, physique wise, he's pretty Kratos-ish.
Hollywood
gotta
will pick him because he's only starring in like 6 movies this
Yeah,
year.
that's true.
alone.
Brett, who are you gonna pick?
I'm gonna be in every movie.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I guess I'm gonna be controversial here. Manny, if you were to draw Kratos, just draw him, would you not kind of draw him with the features a little bit more like a black guy? Like, he has a facial structure that is not necessarily like
Yeah, he
Northern
doesn't.
European.
He doesn't have an exactly Greek look. He looked like he could be some sort of mix. You know what I mean?
But they didn't really have mixed people back in those days.
They didn't. But I mean, when you say that he's a white guy, but when you see him in the game, he's not really a white guy either.
He's a pretty dark guy.
He's
maybe he's from Sicily. You know.
So what would you say, Brett?
I'd probably say do some makeup and put the rock in him. Because he's got that Kratos shape, and like I'm coming from a realistic point. Like you're gonna want to put Big Star in there, and you're gonna want to a name drawing power, and so like who's gonna
that's why I picked Vin Diesel.
What I'm saying, like who's realistically gonna be able to fill that role and do a good job? Like I'd say The Rock more than Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel, I don't know. He's big, but he doesn't really look. I mean, I wouldn't say.
Have you seen the recent Fast and Furious movies? Because The Rock, he makes Vin Diesel look like a little kid when they stand next to each other. It's hilarious.
Yeah, but the shape of him is off. Like he's.
Well, I'm looking at the face.
The Rock is built like a gorilla. Like I actually love the. I saw a bit for like the new Baywatch movie in which they had the only line that I thought was funny when they're like, "You were like a shaved gorilla."
Yeah. But here's my thing, because I think everybody's going to go assume like, okay, we're thinking about action Kratos. I'm trying to think about all Kratos, even before he became the God of War, even before he got all that paint, like when he's doing human scenes with his family. But,
yeah, that's the part. Like, I would honestly cast a black guy to play Kratos if you didn't have those origin bits, and even then, if you had those origin bits,
you didn't have the origin bits. Cast Yaman Hansu. He looks like fucking Kratos. Actually, who would be good? The guy who's playing Kratos now, my man Teal'c. Ooh,
dude, yes.
Yeah.
I could go. I could be. You know what? I could be down with him actually.
Brilliant casting. It's like Teal'c is fucking Kratos now in the game. That's awesome. He would be a great Kratos.
I think for him also, he's
Christopher Judge. By the way, that's the man.
Yeah, Christopher Judge is a kind of a weird look. Like he doesn't look exactly black or something. He just looks a little bit mixed. I think that's the type of person I would probably pick for it. Somebody that you couldn't exactly catch exactly what they might be.
I think I have a better one.
Okay.
What about Batista?
I would say Batista.
He looks like Kratos.
He looks like Kratos, but I don't think his acting.
Everyone looks like Kratos.
Yeah, but Kratos is a bad actor in the game too. So
no, he isn't. What are you talking about?
Come on, man.
No, what are you talking about? That's my man from whatchamacallit, Living Single. That guy's good. What are you talking about?
Oh, he doesn't remember Living Single.
Yeah, he doesn't remember Living Single. My man, Carl. What's his name? Carl. Not Carl. What's his name in the fucking show? Yeah, Living Single with the Queen Latifah and all that. You motherfuckers don't even know, man.
I forgot the name of the actor though.
Hopefully they don't make Scarlett Johansson.
What was that you said?
Scarlett Johansson.
Carson.
Oh, T.C. Carson.
Yeah, that guy's a great fucking actor, man. Anyway, Chris, who do you cast as Kratos, the God of War?
I was gonna say The Rock, but when you said Christopher Judge, I'm like, I changed my answer. He could fucking do it, man. He totally could. Yo, just CG, CG him up, turn the saturation for his flashback. That's it. But the man, he could do it. I think he could do it.
That'd be insane. It's like, oh yeah, the guy who's playing Kratos God of War 4, you get him into the movie. That'd be awesome. There
was a little bit of a sad story behind that too, because T.C. Carson didn't even know he was not playing Kratos in the new one.
Oh, they pulled the David Hayter on him.
They pulled the David Hayter on his ass.
Damn.
Shit.
All right, Brian, what about you, man? Who would you cast?
Vin Diesel.
Yeah, there you go, man.
I want to revenge my friend.
God of War, not Dad of War, right?
Yes, of course.
You'll be drinking Corona.
I want to make this part of a God of War in Cuba.
Well, I mean, think about it. Vin Diesel has made 2 movies that, if you kind of mash them together, could fit the bill. He made The Pacifier and Chronicles of Riddick. You just merge those together. That's God of War.
What about the guy who played Khal Drogo?
Oh, Aquaman.
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, Jason Momoa.
He could work. Yeah,
he could
work
too. Yeah.
Yeah, he could work. You shave him, he looked like fucking Kratos.
Yeah, well, if he wants to shave himself, because he essentially like
you want
He's like, he looks like Rob fucking Zombie at this
Yo,
point.
man, that's Ronan from Stargate Atlantis, man. All right, Adam, what about you?
Get the Rock.
Get the Rock. The Rock.
Right, get the Rock.
It's The Rock.
The Rock's already doing 50 movies.
Doesn't matter. He can do 51. 51.
You know. All right, man. Let's move on here. Okay. What is the hardest game you've ever played?
Ooh.
Is anyone not gonna say Battletoads?
Yeah, Battletoads is up there.
And Ninja Turtles. Remember that shit, man?
Oh my God, that game
the original Ninja Turtles game. Yeah.
It's hardest game.
Recent games.
Dead
I don't
Rising.
know.
The
Hard
original.
as anything? Or is there a time
No,
limit?
any game from any era, man.
Braid.
Did any of y'all beat Ghosts and Ghouls?
Hell
Goblins?
no.
Those
That's a
are
hard
bad.
fucking
was
game.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
It's really hard. All versions of that game are hard. Like the original
versions of Mega
Nintendo
Man
one,
also.
the Super Nintendo, and the Genesis.
The Genesis one was like impossible.
Yeah, that game is brutal because when you beat it the first time, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, that wasn't the real game. Here's the real game, and it's even harder. You know, it's fucking nuts.
I never finished that second run. Like that's one of those things that tarnish my gaming record. Like I never beat the real Ghosts and Ghouls
Oh man, yeah, the real one. That's right.
on any of the iterations. And I fucking love Dark Souls, and that shit was just like, fuck this shit.
Dark Souls is easy compared to those old games, man.
Well, Dark Souls 1 was really bad for me because I picked it up like 2 years after release, so everybody was like just way overpowered and like newbie hunting, and there was no help whatsoever. Like, so I was constantly, and this was before like you had to have somebody summoned to be invaded. Like you had to become human to see summon signs, but that immediately opened you up towards invasion. So I was just running a gauntlet of just overpowered PvP Souls veterans on my first playthrough with nobody to help me. So for like, Souls definitely have a shelf life where the longer you wait to jump in on it, like right now, like I'm fucked because everybody's already finished Ring City, gotten all upgraded and bored by now, and so now they're hunting people. So I know like I'm gonna be in. Well, I'm not unlucky. I'm very lucky to be invaded in Ring City because I do enjoy PvP. But that first time through, oh boy, who fuck with no help.
Yeah, I'll help you, man. Just tell me when you're getting in there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, see, yeah, days like this, I'm like, fuck yeah, Chris, let's go beat up on some plebs.
All right, give me some more hard games, guys.
Well, the hardest game
Rising.
was
But with that time, running around chasing the clock.
Wait, which one? What are you talking? You guys are
Rising.
talking at the same time. Adam, go. And then Chris.
Dead Rising.
Dead Rising? Really?
Damn right, because you had to keep up with the time. You kept looking at the time. So it was hard in the fact that you had to track the time and then not get lost and then not get sidetracked. And then weird cutscenes just automatically cutting you off. So you're running by something. And I was like, oh no, you have to save me and do all this other shit. I'm like, no, that's not what I was here for. It doesn't matter. So then you would have to just do the whole day and then play it again just to try to catch that time.
You're like,
There
I'd
was
really
the save
love to help
points were
you, but I
only at
got
the
to
base.
Toy Store by 5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then there was only that one save spot.
All right, Chris.
the hardest game I ever finished was original Ninja Gaiden for NES.
Oh.
And let's see. I mean, I can't think of anything more freaking brutal than Ghouls and Ghosts.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
I don't have one handy. I can't. That game was ridiculous.
Chris, did you think that the old Ninja Gaiden was harder than the new Ninja Gaiden? Because like that
Oh, for sure.
first Xbox game, like I remember a point where like you go out and there was between save points where I literally had to fight a whole bunch of enemies, and then I got like assaulted on a bridge, and then I had to fight a tank, and I was like, oh fucking thank God that tank is dead. And then 2 more tanks come out, and I had to fight them, and I was like, oh my God, I fucking can't believe I beat these 2 tanks. That was brutal. I'm fucking toasted. And then you immediately have to go onto like a boss on a bridge battle where they're fucking shooting rockets at you and shit. And you have to do all of this. Like if you fail at any point, you have to jump back to the beginning of said thing. It was like Dark Souls-esque. Like Dark Souls doesn't even do that shit to you. It's not like here's 3 mini bosses between here and your next fucking campfire.
Well, that was where the challenge was in that one. But in the original Ninja Gaiden, it was 100% platformer, and you would get knocked off ledges all the time. If you even backed up a little bit on the screen and went forward, the guy you just killed, he respawns. So there would be those frustrating moments where you're platforming, and there's these birds that swoop down, and you're like, let me jump backwards to avoid him. And the bird goes past you. You jump back, the bird comes back. So you had all this stuff, and there were pits everywhere. So I mean, it was super hard.
Oh man! All right, what other tough games do we got?
Braid.
I mean,
Braid was pretty hard. Yeah, like
Braid was hard. Yeah,
controlling the time, knowing like exactly when to jump off and turn back time and flash it forward. Like that shit would fuck your freaking brain up, man.
The original, the original Sunsoft Batman game.
Oh
yeah,
that
was real hard. Yeah,
that shit was crazy. All right, let's
easy.
Which one?
Mega Man was never easy.
Yeah, Mega Man games were always fun.
I feel like they got easier as they went on, but the first one is pretty brutal.
Yeah, that was the hardest one for sure. All right, let's move on here. DC 58411. He goes, I'm not able to make it to these late night podcasts to watch them live. Is it cool with y'all if I submit questions here? Of course. We keep telling you that every week. All right, he goes, this is an interesting one. If exclusives didn't exist, do you think Xbox or Sony would be in the lead right now? So yeah, if there were no exclusive games between Xbox and Sony, which one would actually be the best-selling console?
I think that at that point, I think the console, having a different console, would not mean anything.
It wouldn't mean anything, right?
It would not mean a damn thing. I think.
But architecture systems like the PC.
Yeah. I feel like that as far as what's his face saying that exclusives are anti what is it, consumer, right? I think also at the same time they're good because they give you reasons to have both of them.
Yeah,
I mean, if then it would just be a question as to if Assassin's Creed looks better on this rather than that.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we would definitely have them because we have different brands of PC, and these would essentially just be glorified Steam boxes. I mean, it's a reason Alienware is a thing. Like, despite you being able to build your own PC for a fraction of a better PC for a fraction of the price, even back when Alienware wasn't owned by Dell, Alienware was a thing, and it was just different brand that gave you access. But motherfucker, they had fanboys too. People were like, "Oh man, you're not really gaming unless you're gaming on an Alienware PC." It's like, do you even want to read the specs to my PC? Or they're like,
oh, I got the new one. Look, my Alien glows.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah. Imagine somebody saying that shit now, yo man. If you ain't rocking Alienware, you ain't rocking no PC gaming. They get laughed out of the room.
Yeah, and then everybody will laugh at you. You mean that glorified Dell you're running?
Yeah.
But I mean,
you're getting an Alienware.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, I do have to say, like, if you're not, if you just kind of want a quick and dirty, thing. I mean, yeah, you can go with an Alienware. Why not?
Well, no, getting an Alienware is like the PC equivalent of buying a Kodak instant camera.
Yeah, there we go. People want the quick and dirty one.
By the way, I need to say this real quick because this is funny what Cal just said. He goes, Dark Souls is like Barbie Pony Adventures compared to Bart versus the Space Mutants.
Oh, that game was only hard because it was broken, man.
Yeah, that's true. That shit was broken as a motherfucker, man.
I still enjoyed it though.
Yeah, oh hell yeah.
Dude, that was the first game. That was the first game where I sat down and I was like, you know what? I feel like one day. Oh wow! I feel like one day you're just gonna be able to go anywhere and do anything in games. My friend was like, "What are you talking about?" I was like you'll be able to just like walk, like instead of being like stuck here, you'll be like walk into the background there, and like walk into that house and start fucking with people's pots and shit, like knock over their vates or, like I can't wait to see a game where you can just go around and do stuff. Like that was the first time I think I actually envisioned like a true like open world Fallout style game. It was like
into the future.
Yeah, no, I just like, wow, we made it. I just realized that. Like, we totally got here.
I need to play that game now. All right. But yeah, it wouldn't matter, it wouldn't matter who was in the lead. They have the same fucking games, Yeah,
they have the same games. It would be, I mean, again, I feel like at that point in time, there wouldn't be two different consoles. There would just be one.
Yeah, exactly.
Because at that point in time, if the ground is so evil, I mean, not evil, even,
yes.
The ground is so even.
Evil.
The ground is so even. Why have a PlayStation or Xbox?
It wouldn't matter.
Or even Nintendo if they all just were one.
You'll mean so shit.
Then why do we have AMD and Intel?
The thing is that we're talking about processors now. Okay, so now if we're doing something like that, there's still some sort of exclusive factor to it. But wouldn't that also splinters things a little bit too?
Well, no. What I'm saying is like you'd still have different built boxes. It's the same reason that we have, you know,
It would, so you're thinking it would be more of a spec thing? Like it'd be down to like, okay, PlayStation 4 plays the same games as Xbox One does, but it plays them better at this point in time.
Yeah,
or
it would be,
you know.
yeah, it'd be essentially like Steam boxes. This, you know, we'd still be measuring things like, you know, it'd be essentially like the old days when it's like, is it 8-bit or is it 16-bit? You know, it's you'd be looking at the specs of the system the same way you look at the specs of a PC. And so because these would be probably prepackaged non-modular things, you'd be like, well, you know, Microsoft builds PCs, they also build the best, you know, living room PC or console. And then other people would be like, well, Sony got, you know, partnered with this player person to make a special chip. You'd see more specialized architecture in the hardware, I think.
All right.
And things like, you know, quality of the, you know, like my PlayStation is probably about to bite the dust. Like that kind of thing would figure more into your console purchases as opposed to the games.
And to be honest, you know what it'd be like? 3DO.
Oh shit. Yeah.
3DO. There was 3DO didn't create. There was a brand that never actually created their own consoles. They licensed the tech out to different companies like Gold Star, Panasonic, and they even had a 3DO graphics card, or a graphics card that you could stick inside of your computer.
All right. Next question here. Are you concerned about Sony being so far in the lead? They can now do almost anything without really having to worry about competition. For example, PlayStation does not have stuff like EA Game Pass, digital returns, as far as I know, but Xbox does, and those services are really good for the consumer. But PlayStation hasn't really. Let me finish the question. But those services aren't really good for the consumer. PlayStation hasn't really done anything to compete with that. So yeah, is there a worry that PlayStation could just get complacent since they're so far ahead?
They've done it already. Been there, done that.
Policy.
Again, we're talking over each other. Adam, go first.
I've been there, done that. I mean, they've learned their lesson from the PS3 when they were telling everybody to go get a second job and stuff. They learned, and then after they got hacked on the network, they learned. They're like, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's be friends with them. Let's work together on this.
Yeah, Brett, go ahead.
Oh, like Xbox, didn't they just institute their digital return policy?
Yeah, it's a brand new thing. Yeah.
So like, yeah, like just because Sony hasn't responded to that yet doesn't mean that they're not going to respond. This is a good move. This is probably actually going to become the standard. It's bled over from PC into Xbox, so now it's dominating 2 of the 3 major branches of gaming. Sony has almost no choice but to follow suit or look like an asshole. And that's the exact reason, you know, Microsoft did this is you know, Sony's going to try and hold out, but they put the gun to Sony's head on that one, and that's a great thing.
That's the great thing about competition. See,
yeah,
you know, obviously, if it starts to become a thing, like something that the other one is like, oh wait, they're like, why aren't you doing that? And they'll be like, yeah, why aren't we doing that?
Yeah, exactly. So things will become the norm. But yeah, absolutely. Like Sony can and might fuck up. I mean, it's becoming more standard for there to be a dominating system. I think the online component is really the big reason for that. Like you're now developing and cultivating ecosystems which are almost worth more. Like if you're a company, the people that you bring into your ecosystem are almost worth more than the products that you're selling. They're your real asset at that point because and Apple has already figured this out. That's why, you know, you buy one Apple product and they want to try and sink you into or pull you into their whole ecosystem and sync everything up and make everything easy. And it's become almost cult-like. But shit, I forgot where I was going with this. God damn it, I'm spacey today. Somebody else go ahead.
Yeah,
that was a great show.
Yeah, no, they definitely could become complacent. Hopefully they don't, you know. All right, next question. Yeah, anybody else want to jump in on that real quick?
I'm not too scared because obviously they'll do something and they'll fuck up badly. That all seems like the general trend. It's like they'll start doing well, and then at some point in time they'll just fuck up. So
they'll piss everybody off.
Exactly.
Yeah, I kind of agree. They're bound to fuck up somehow, spectacularly too. You know. All All right.
But you Xbox, the Xbox crazies won't hear that we said.
Yeah, they won't hear that part. They won't hear that part. Sony will fuck up eventually. Just give them time. All right.
Well, or Microsoft's just going to put
Microsoft already fucked up.
Well, no. Not that they're going to fuck up. Microsoft is putting the screws to Sony. Like,
that's true.
They're looking at their own business and they're saying, where can we cut the fat? They're trying to, it's like a boxer cutting weight. They're trying to cut the fat so that they can come out swinging and look at where they can hit Sony and provide a better value to consumers. And that's really good for us.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you may see like maybe they'll oh God, in a perfect world, they would roll back the idea that you need to pay for online service. They'd pull their multiplayer out from behind a paywall. Oh my God, can you imagine how much that would fucking cut into Sony right there? So let me get this straight. I can buy a Microsoft console, and for the cost of 2 or 3 years worth of fucking PlayStation Plus, I don't have to have PlayStation Plus because I don't give a fuck about the games that they're giving me because that was an adventure in failure. Or on that note, maybe Microsoft starts giving out actual good AAA games that try and bring people over. Like they're gonna find some way to entice consumers. So it's a waiting game to see whether Microsoft can entice consumers over or Sony trips up and fucks themselves and shoots themselves in the foot. History would dictate that somebody fucks up and shoots himself in the foot, but reason would dictate that Microsoft would, take advantage of Sony and try and cut into their ecosystem and get more people. Because the only way you're going to get people on Xbox from PlayStation is if your friends start playing on Xbox and not PlayStation. And that's, at the end of the day, the real thing that matters. So you got to worry about a certain subset of consumers that are the tipping point, the ones that are the heavy gamers, the ones that are going to pull other people into the ecosystem. So, I mean, as soon as more than half your friends are playing a console, there's a good chance that you're going to consider picking up that console yourself.
All right.
I don't care what my friends are playing.
All right, and the last question here. This is funny. Why do sales matter to fanboys? You know why? Because they gotta feed their. Basically, a lot of fanboys are insecure, right? They need that confirmation. Like I made the right decision by this console. So when you see higher sales numbers, it makes them feel better about their purchases. So they could throw it in the face of the quote unquote enemy. It's all about feeding that bullshit.
The only time that I look at certain sales numbers is it's for something that I enjoy, because it means that in general that they might go out and make a sequel to this thing. It's a franchise that
there's a difference though. You're a perfectly rational person. To these guys.
I don't think, like, the thing is, like, for the most part, I don't really care about sales numbers.
Again, you're a rational person. Fanboys, why do they care?
Again, I don't care about the sales number. I just want to see sometimes if, like, okay, if it's kind of I enjoyed the game Nier, and it's nice to see that the game is doing really well concerning how poorly the last Nier games and Dragon Guard games did.
Or the other side of that blade, like, I really enjoy this thing, but I'm afraid that it's not going to receive the support that I want.
Exactly.
Yeah, again, these are responses by rational people, because that's why you should care about sales. You should care about sales because if you like a game, you want it to sell well, so you get more of that game, But to these guys, they don't care about that. They just care about having a bigger dick than the other guy, And
the console sales, that doesn't exactly concern me either, because again, I go where the games go. If PlayStation 4 just goes belly up, PlayStation just goes belly up, well, it just means I have to go buy something else that has the games that I like.
Yeah. All right. Anybody else want to jump in on that? Because we've covered this shit before. Why fanboys care about this stuff. Let's move on. We covered that enough already. All right. Black Metal Gamer. All right. He goes, if there was a literal game genie, like Aladdin genie, and he granted you 3 games of your choice to completely wipe away from your memory so that you could play them fresh again for the first time, what 3 games would it be for you? This is a good question. So you get that experience for the first time, to experience it all over again.
BioShock would be one of them for sure for me.
Yeah.
I got an easy answer. The Mass Effect trilogy.
Yeah,
I'm about
there you
to
go.
and I get them all in one shot. They're all packaged together now. I don't have to wait a couple of years to buy them.
And the DLC that fixes the ending of 3, right, Chris?
There you go. Yeah, but
Yeah.
2 still will be the best one. I don't care how many times you wipe my
Yeah.
memory.
See, I'm being a little more nitpicky. Mass Effect 2, Metal Gear Solid 3, obviously, and come back to me later. I got to pick one more. Oh, Uncharted 2. Oh man, playing that game the first time for 24 hours, I liked it more than Metal Gear Solid 3. Then I came to my senses. So now it's my number 2 game of all time. But yeah, those 3 right there, which are actually coincidentally my 3 top games of all time.
Wait.
If I could like erase them from my memory, I could play them fresh again. Oh my fucking god, that would be
So Mass
insane.
Effect 2 is number 1.
In order, Metal Gear Solid 3. Yeah, Mass Effect 2 would be number 2, and then Uncharted 2 would be number 3.
If I erased certain games from my memory, then I'd be mad at myself why I didn't play it when it originally came out. So if I were to be like, okay, if I erased the original Metal Gear Solid, right, from my mind and been playing that again, I'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I'd been waiting for years since the original Nintendo Entertainment System Metal Gear game, and I wait till 2017 to play this fucking. What the fuck is wrong with me?
All right, so that's 1. What's the other 2?
Then I would say, let's see. I would say the Mass Effect. The go with the Chris's Mass Effect trilogy. There, I would go with that one, and then I would say there's got to be one of those pleasantly surprising games that I had. Maybe Final Fantasy 4.
Oh,
I'd like
nice.
to play that one. I'd like to play that one again, Blake Slate. And I'll insert movies, at least one movie, Terminator 2.
Okay, I'm gonna add an addendum to that. Terminator 2, and also erase the trailer 2 from your mind.
And the trailer. I didn't see the trailer, and I just saw Terminator 2 and just watching it as is.
But you remember the first Terminator, like, yo, Arnold's the fucking Terminator, man. This is crazy. Wait, like saving the kid? What is going on?
Yeah, imagine that. Like, imagine if you didn't get, at least for us, like, imagine if we didn't get that one thing spoiled, where it's like, one was sent back through time to destroy, one was sent back in time to protect. Fuck.
Yeah, because if you watch the movie, like, wait, the movie was setting you up so you think he's the bad guy.
Yeah, like he like the way he murders those guys in the bar, right? That's not a good guy.
Yeah,
and then you see the T-1000, and then he kills that fucking cop. So you're like, holy shit! There's 2 fucking Terminators that were sent after this kid. And then at that moment, when they're in the back of the mall, and then Arnold goes, "Get down," and that's it. And you're like, "Oh, good."
Yeah, the fucking trailer spoiled that, man. Anyway, the Carlos, 3 games.
BioShock, the original BioShock. I don't know. Mass Effect 2 is my favorite game of all time, but
nice.
But I don't know. I'm trying to think, like, how would I think about Mass Effect 2 in 2017? Because when it came out in whatever year it came out, 2008, 2009, like, it was amazing. And
see, this is the question that I had. Like, would we get to experience them the way that we did the first time, or would we experience them in the context that we now know? Because games have grown. So I think for sake of argument, we probably have to be, if you could experience them the way that you did the first time.
Yeah, it has to be that, because obviously if you...
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it has to be that. You know why? This is why that's important, because, again, I didn't play BioShock, the first one, until maybe 5 years later, and I'm like, what's the big deal about this game? Like, because all the cool shit that game did, other games did afterwards, so it didn't seem as, like, cool to me, So, yeah, it would have to be, you have to erase kind of, like, okay, it's in the context of how you first experienced it, not if you were to play it now fresh for the first time, because obviously you'd be like, the fuck is this shit?
Yeah, because, like, for example, one of my favorite games is Halo 2, and a lot of it was due to the multiplayer aspects, but that's not that special right now. But when it came out, it was revolutionary. Yeah, but yeah, if we use that even though Mass Effect 2 is my favorite game, I wouldn't put it. I would say Halo 2, BioShock, and Portal.
Oh, the first one, right?
Those would be my three. Yeah,
Those are good ones. Yeah. All right, Brian, what about you, man?
I'd say Burnout Paradise or Burnout
Ooh, that's a good one.
Point of Impact. I'm not quite sure which one just yet.
Warframe.
No, not Warframe. And yes, I know that you can see my Steam, so shut up. Lost Planet 2, because like the bosses in that game are just like so much fun.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. A lot. You don't hear Lost Planet 2.
Brian's the only guy that likes it.
Yeah. Because I think it was either like it wasn't like received well. It was just kind of like the Western Monster Hunter, but without anything that made Monster Hunter so good. So that's why.
The demo was really good. I remember that.
Oh, so fantastic! I loved it. And let's say 1, 2, and Witcher 3, because that's just like that's a game that like changed how I see games in general. Because I'm like, wow, games can actually be like this good. Like up until that point, like to me, games were always most AAA games have always just been like we're in it for the money. Whereas with Witcher 3, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? We want to make a game that people will love. Hence why we're like pour as much heart and soul as we can. And yeah, it was such a fun game.
Awesome. All right, Brett, 3 games.
Let's see. A Link to the Past. Just because, man, that was my first taste of like real kind of open world, go wherever, do whatever game. And I just remember being so awestruck and in love with it. And I bet I must have played that game 10 times through. So if I could get back that first time and play it again for the first time, 100%. Portal 2, I would say more than Portal 1. Although it's close, but to hear the writing in Portal 2 again for the first time, like that's one of those things that you can't recapture. Like it's still fucking hilarious hearing Cave Johnson, but the first time that you're going through and playing and hearing all those Cave Johnson announcements, like, man, that game just hits you hard and hits you out of left field sometimes, and I enjoyed the shit out of it. And finally, Dark Souls 1. It was, and I go back to the way I experienced the first time, and this sounds like a humble brag, but I take away my ability or my got good, and I would.
You want to get good again?
Yeah, I'd want to have to get good all over again, because it was imposing and it was terrifying and it was fucking brutal, and the sense of exhilaration that I got every time I made it to a bonfire, or every time I beat an invader and lived to progress just a little bit further was so absolutely satisfying. And since then, like every subsequent Dark Souls game, by like Dark Souls 2, I was coming in brushing my shoulders off. I was like, all right, motherfuckers, let's do this shit.
I'm already good.
Yeah, and that carried over even more into Bloodborne. And like the more Souls games I play, the less intimidated I am by them. So if I could go back to that first time when it was just pants shitting scary, like that was the first time a game was really a horror game to me. There were jump scares before, but this game literally made me feel a sense of imposing dread and fear of moving forward. Like I have no idea what's going to happen. There's nobody here to help me. I would absolutely re-encapsulate that in a heartbeat.
Awesome. Right, Adam, what about you, man?
First Resident Evil.
All right.
What is this?
First Gears of War. And first Metal Gear, Nintendo.
Metal Gear.
Yeah, I like
That
those.
feeling the first time I played it.
Or more like that's voice acting.
It's kind of funny, Adam. If like I was you like 2 years ago with Gears of War 1, I never played that shit before. Played that shit in 2015 after all these innovations of games. I'm like, oh my god, this kicks the shit out of all these new games.
Yeah, it changed everything. It changed it. And when I played that, I'm like, this is the best game ever.
Yo, let me tell you,
for the new generation,
man. I'm gonna keep it real with you. It was 2015. I was like, you know, if this game wasn't old and Metal Gear Solid 5 didn't come out, I would pick this as my game of the year. The original Gears of War. It was so much fun, man.
Yeah.
That's the shit right there. It's really stood the test of time, man. And it's funny,
I agree with that,
when I went back to play the old ass one, not the remaster one, like obviously it looked fucking ugly, which is hilarious because remember how amazing it looked back then? But it still plays good, you know?
Yeah.
All right, let's move on here.
It's just because it's so all gray.
Yeah. Okay, this is an interesting one. What are the tropes of retro games that you hated then, and what are the tropes of modern gaming that you hate now, and which era had it worse? My thing, this is one thing that annoyed me. You know, going back to hard games, right? Because back in the Manny, Ken Levine talked about this too, right? Basically, back in the day, most games they had arcade origins, right? So why were those games so brutally hard? Because they wanted to suck quarters out of you, right? Then that the difficulty translate over to consoles, and nobody ever thought about why were these games hard to begin with. It wasn't until like maybe the PlayStation 1 era, we're like, we want people to actually finish these games, but a lot of those early NES games, even some SNES games, they were like arcade games, just brutally hard for no real reason, just because the arcades were like that, so the thing I would take away is like, it's like, okay, I'm at home. Why the fuck do I have limited continues? Let me play this game as long as I fucking want. You could keep it as hard as you want, but like, give me unlimited continues. I'm playing at fucking home. I'm not in a stupid arcade. You're not sucking quarters into my fucking Super Nintendo here, So that's the thing I hated the most. I'm like, come on, I'm at home. Why the fuck do I have to deal with this shit? So that one for sure. I'm not gonna bring up obvious shit like glitches and all that. But yeah, that one for sure is like, give me unlimited continues. I'm at home. Stop this bullshit.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, man? What was a trope that you really hated back in the day?
Oh, a trope from the old games. Let's see. I mean, yeah, definitely the whole, where it just kind of, it just gives you limited continues. Wow.
Did it come back to you?
Yeah, I'm finding it a little bit difficult to remember certain things. I mean, there was I didn't. You know what? The password systems from the old games, I didn't care for, because a lot of times I mean, there was obviously ways to brute force it if you figured out the pattern. Like, I think some games would just use like, actual coding, like language to get it. So if you can figure out what each value, what each thing, controlled each value, you can pretty much brute force and get yourself to a certain part of the game. But later on they started putting, those save batteries inside of the thing, and I really enjoyed those. But like keeping track of those the password shits, I mean, like we're talking about Metal Gear, the original Metal Gear game, that thing used that. And man, if you didn't get that thing right, you would fuck yourself over. You're like, God damn it, like, or Castlevania, like shit. That was
really easy to publish passwords.
It was easy to publish passwords and stuff like that too. But I mean, like if you wanted, to be honest, the video game book, the magazines would print like the ultimate, version of the game where you have a shitload of items and all that stuff, and you're like right before Dracula. But I didn't like to do that sort of stuff. I would like to continue my game where, I found the things that I found. But I just hated having to, to copy down all those codes, especially for like Mega Man. You need like fucking graph paper. You needed graph paper, or they had like, to say where, A1 or B1 or any of those. Because I remember screwing up. I think it was I forgot what game it was, Adam, we were playing. And one time one of us had to copy down the code, and we fucked up and we lost the game.
We lost the game. Yeah, there's been a few games that were like that with codes. That was a pain in the ass. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out was like that. You didn't have the internet to tell you that there was a default code, and then all you had to do is punch in this code, and you can skip to certain key points of the game.
Mm-hmm. And the modern games, things that glow in games, like glowing clips, glowing bottles, things that the things that are made so obviously that you can pick them up. I know what those things, and the same thing with like ledges, like an Uncharted. Like now, like nowadays you don't do them as much, but in the older ones, like they used to do that little thing where they used to the every single thing that you could climb up had a yellow like tint to it. You know what I mean? Or like in God of War, every single ledge that you could go on had like a shimmer, a shine to it, so that you could tell what to climb up.
Yeah. Okay. I'll come back to myself for the modern shit.
I got a retro one.
Yeah, yeah. I'll come to you, but I'm just going straight down. Like Carlos, what's a retro thing you hated?
Yeah, get back to me with that. I was looking at the timestamp.
Yeah, there's some bullshit. And by the way, I'm going to say it now because we're about to hit 3 hours. When we finish Black Metal Gamers questions, we're done for the show. We'll save all the other ones for next week. Chris, what's a thing from retro games that you hated?
Retro games, I hated the fact that no one could swim. You hit water, you die.
You know,
every game was like that. Water killed you. Even Castlevania 64, or up to Nintendo 64 at this point, you can't swim. Motherfucker, you can't swim, you just die. And I think Symphony of the Night was the first one that changed that. And after even Vice City, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, swim. It was San Andreas that fixed that. So that was bad. In modern gaming, it's the fact that I can get in a tank in any game and I can plow through a building, but I can't knock down trees.
Yeah, and a fence.
So, go in any game. Go Battlefield 1. Get in a tank and go try to hit a tree. The tree's invincible. Go blow it up. Like that pisses me off. Why those aren't destructible by now?
Let me go back to myself. For modern trope that I hate, those tutorials that last like 20 or 30 minutes. I'm like, come on, man, what the fuck is this shit? You know, like that was stupid, you know, like, but some games now, they circumvent that by just like telling you things in, you know, between the loading screens. I like that. But when you have to go through forced tutorial intros, that's annoying, you know, those could be pretty annoying to me. All right.
I'll
you good now, man?
Yeah. So the newer gaming trope, one of them is advertisements. Like, I freaking hate how video games put advertisements. Like, if it's a realistic game that's based on a real city, then I can understand it. But when you have fucking Cup of Noodles in Final Fantasy 15, that's just fucking overdoing it, man. That just throws everything the hell off. So that's one thing that I hate.
What, Cup Noodles exist in Final Fantasy world? No.
Yeah, that's... man. No, but older trope, I don't know. It's like retroactively looking at it, but like the fact that they didn't really have any, like, no, this is not fair. I was gonna say like they didn't have online back then, but it's kind of
you can't do that. It's something that annoyed you back then, you know.
I don't know. Games were just harder back then. I don't know if that's just
the artificial difficulty and shit.
Yeah, they just made them harder, like, to play.
Cheap final bosses? No.
Yeah.
That shit, because then it's like, why? It's like, this isn't a fucking arcade game, man. What the fuck, you know? But I didn't mind the difficulty too much. It's like, can I at least replay it as many times as I want? In Super Nintendo era, they started letting you just replay it as many times as you want. So I was actually able to beat games, you know?
Yeah, because some games, like, you died and you just start over.
Yeah, it's like, come on, bro, you got to go all the way back to the beginning. It's like, come on, fuck that, you know? All right.
Raised on.
What happened, Brett?
That's the kind of shit I felt like I was raised on. Like,
I was raised on that. I'm like, well, it was annoying back then, you know?
I remember being pissed when you started being able to just, like, when autosaves became a thing. I was like, what, so you can just stumble your ass through the whole game now? Any retard can finish it? Okay.
I don't mind that.
I don't mind that.
I'm not. The autosave thing I don't like because I don't have control over it.
My thing
I like having the ability to actually save
manually save. Yeah,
manually save.
Yeah, I miss save spots. Remember those?
Like, Nier has those
saves.
Yeah.
You had to use them correctly. You couldn't just, just save every 4 seconds and never lose any progress.
Yeah. I could understand that. I don't mind auto saves too much. Like if there's an audio save right before a boss, like, thank you, I don't have to go through the whole fucking level now just to get to the boss. That's good. It saves you time, so you don't have to go through all this shit again. But yeah, auto saves like every 5 seconds. Like, come on, really? I wish they would disable them, or at least give you the option to.
Yeah, like because I like to have multiple saves sometimes.
Yeah, me too. Exactly. All right, Brian.
Oh, this is a fun one. Obvious arena spaces in video games. Like, the biggest ones that just like piss me off are Gears of War and like Naughty Dog games. It's kind of like just walking into a room like, oh, it's a nice room. Huh? Why is everything like suddenly like up to my waist? Like, oh, okay, so I'm gonna fight through like this place in like 5 seconds. Unload
It's
the
like,
whole
hey,
huge fight to the place.
why are all these waist-high walls around?
A lot. And Brian, here's a variation of that in a lot of older games of this too, where you're walking around and then you suddenly get to this giant area, giant opening. I'm like, I'm gonna fight a big dragon monster or something, aren't I? Then a big fucking monster shows up. You know,
Oh yeah.
every
It's I think that like the Bethesda game do that as well. It's like, oh, I'm just going to like this cave, and then like, oh, like, huh. Suddenly, like these tight narrow caves have turned into like a massive open hole.
I wonder what's gonna happen.
Dark Souls
Look at that!
does
A
that.
chest in there.
Yeah.
Dark Souls still does that shit, and it fills me with dread. Like, and now I have like this weird PTSD about like you walk in that game, you're like, hey, look, a field. I'm not going out there.
Oh man. All right. And so what about older games, Brian?
I haven't really played many older games, so I can't really say. But I guess like just the sheer like the health systems, I guess. Because if I remember correctly, like stuff like Mega Man and Castlevania, like the health systems were like very weird. It's like heart based, and it never really like. It didn't matter where you got hit by like a fly or like a boss, like it still took off like the same amount of health.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's a bit weird. You know, I expect like something that's like 3 times my size to like hit a lot harder than like a random bird that's like flying through the air.
Or
No,
Medusa
that's just me.
Yeah. Brett.
For old ones, it was the that you didn't and like Contra games that you didn't get locked when you started firing. So to fire behind you, you would kind of swing around, but sometimes instead of swinging around, like you back up instead. Like I felt like you didn't have enough control. That's why Gunstar Heroes was one of my favorites, because you could set it to when you were firing, you didn't run, and so you kind of like bunny hop through the level, you know, pointing the gun on omnidirectionally, and it made for a lot more control. I still have this problem when I played Metal Slug the other day. I was like, "There's a guy behind me," and you try and turn around to shoot him, and instead you just back up a little bit. You're like, "God damn it, no!" And you turn around and more, and all the while, you know, you're trying to jump through grenades and bombs and boss shots and things like that. So you may as well just lock your movement when you're firing, so you can jump and then use that trajectory to, you know, fire around you and whatnot. For a new game, things that piss me off, fucking cover mechanics. Like, I don't understand why you press a button to hide against a wall. Just walk up and stand against the wall. Like, there was the idea of hiding around corners and popping out and shooting people like as far back as fucking Wolfenstein, or just crouching behind a box. I don't know why it's become its own thing where you have to walk up and initiate something that's just should be really normal. It should be fucking standard and easy. Like, you don't have to think about crouching behind. You just run up and you kind of cover into it. Like, it should be a seamless thing.
So I'm guessing you like the way Tomb Raider did it, right? Because as soon as Alara starts getting shot at, she just automatically goes behind cover. You don't have to press a button or anything.
No, I fucking hate that shit.
But you don't have to press a button.
Yeah, no, but it auto fucking covers. Like, it's artificial. Like, here's an idea: if there's a waist-high box, just fucking crouch, and the bullets will hit the box. I don't need to press a button to go into quote unquote cover. Like, there's the trajectory of the bullet, and there's whether or not I'm in the way of it. Like, if you want to have an animation that has them huddle up, like, next to the wall, that's fine, as long as it does it seamlessly.
So, yeah,
Metal Gear Solid 5 does that.
Yeah, let me ask you this. So you don't want to press a button for her to go to cover, but you want to press a button for her to crouch to go behind cover.
Yeah, well, you already have a crouch button. Duck
You're
under,
still pressing a
duck
button.
under stuff.
And it'll go to
Well, no,
cover
I mean,
that.
like, it's essentially the way Metal Gear Solid 5 does it, where essentially when you Snake, for the most part, he bends down, right? You know, he can stand up or bend down, but when you go next to cover or something like that, he'll just automatically, like, you know, when somebody's firing, he'll push himself to it. You know, like, he won't, like, you don't need to press a button for him to do anything like that. You know?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Or even like I've played games like this where as you kind of come up against a wall, your character reaches out and kind of puts their hands against it anyway. If you keep pressing, they'll kind of lean in and hug against it a little bit more, like that kind of thing. Just, it doesn't need to be a mechanic on its own. Just give me a nice animation that lets me kind of push up against the wall and react to my environment. And I'm good with that. I can figure out where a bullet is coming from and use a wall to stop it all on my own. I don't need to press a button to pop out from the side. I can just pop out from the side and shoot. So yeah, just the way that it's fucking hand holding, quick timey. It almost feels like it makes a cover system into a quick time event, which I don't like.
All right, Adam, what about you, man?
Things that I like.
Yeah, no, things that you hated.
Well, it's pretty much what everybody had said. It's just not being able to save, having to rely on codes. You know.
What about new games?
That's pretty much it. It was those two. Those are major issues. You know,
I know you like cover systems.
Damn right. Take cover, get your other boys. I think maybe that's another reason why I like Wildlands more than I thought I would. It's because I can give them commands to do certain things. All right, cover that building. It reminds me of Command and Conquer. You know, I like those RTS type games.
Well, hey, that sounds like a whole different thing. I wouldn't have a problem with that.
So it's like I'll go over to the right side and then I'll set them up to, in a farmhouse, and they'll take cover. They automatically know one guy will take a window, the other guy will take a door, the other guy will cover the back. I'm like, they're not that dumb, And then as soon as the convoy comes through, they're spraying bullets and they're staying put until I tell them to abandon that spot. So, but just saving. Saving was a big deal. I remember that was a big deal. Like even now, like you see all these games that are coming back when they bring them back to for the modern console. What's it on PS4? What are they called? The archive something.
Oh, PlayStation 2 classics or whatever.
No. They're older than that because they have Renegade and a few older ones.
Oh yeah. They had the original Double Dragon and shit like that.
Yeah. They have a special name, but one of the key features is, besides adding trophies on it, is that you can save at any point.
Yeah, and
at least for some of them.
The new it's called the Saturday, the weekend afternoon collection by Capcom. I'm forgetting the fucking name. Saturday afternoon. Weekday afternoon collection, right? Yeah. That shit, it does something cool. You could rewind shit for a little bit, because those old games definitely needed it, so that's good. All right, let's move on here. Last question here. All right, from Mr. Black Metal. And by the way, I do want to apologize to Willie Robinson, Final Stage Boss, Garidi, and Apex. We couldn't get to your questions. The show went on too fucking long. This is the reason we're going to cover everybody's asks 2 questions from now on. It's crazy, but we appreciate the love you guys are sending us. So, that's cool, Okay, what game franchise would you like to see become a good comic book series? By the way, the title and Gears of War was a comic book series, and it was pretty decent.
There was also a Halo.
Gears of War had a bunch of novels. It had a graphic novel. The Last of Us had the Last of Us comics. It was only like 6 episodes.
Yeah.
6 issues.
The only alternative to that, though, I would say I would like the original creators to have something to do with these products, rather than have somebody else's interpretations of these products, if it's possible. So, like, if we're doing a BioShock comic book, that Ken Levine, the story writer and game director, had something to do with the actual story, as opposed to just like a guy reacting to what was in the game. Kind of not like the old days adaptations that we used to get.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, look, we got we got Frank Miller to write an Assassin's Creed comic book. Really?
Yeah. And I know the Mass Effect comics always did pretty good for Dark Horse. you know. But yeah, me personally, I'm good. I'm good. I like to play my video games. I don't really need them in the comic form, you know.
I don't mind a comic book adaptation, but to be honest, I would want a comic book adaptation of a section of story that we never read. That's the biggest issue that I had with with the Metal Gear Solid comics, is that they were essentially retreading the same ground of Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they did add some additional, like, background to certain things, but officially that also is probably not canon either.
You know, it's cool you mentioned that, because that's what the Gears of War comics did. Like, they told you the Unification Wars, right? They told you that story. Then they told you Emergence Day, you know, so it didn't cover anything from the game. So it was like the characters remember what they were doing beforehand, you know.
I like that. I like that sort of stuff where it's like, okay, so what was happening at this point? Or was a portion of gameplay of stuff that was mentioned but never expanded. I dig those things, but having it just be like a retread of what was happening in the games, it's not. You don't need that.
Yeah, that was the Last of Us. Last of Us did that.
Or the comic book. Yeah, we don't need a retread. Yo, Adam, remember Gears of War 4? That beginning was fucking awesome because you got to play a little bit of Unification War, a little bit of Emergence Day.
Yeah, it was a little bit of it. It was like remembering certain points in the history. It was sort of giving you like a walkthrough, like, hey, you didn't play the other games?
Yeah.
Well, here's that. In different points, though. It's not exact.
See, but that was also a tutorial, but that's a good way of doing a tutorial, you know? I like that.
When you think about it, it was like kind of disappointing that you didn't go back to that.
Yeah,
I was like,
I wanted to play that. Like, yo, I don't play that shit. That's crazy, you know? The Hammer of Dawn, all that shit, you know?
Did they make you fight that fucking what's his face thing at the end of Gears of War 1?
No.
General Ram.
You weren't replaying anything from the games. You were playing shit from the history of Gears of War, you know?
Oh, okay.
Like they even had like one section from that was in Gears of War 3, but you weren't playing that part, you know? Right when all the locusts were destroyed or whatever.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. So yeah, what other games would make good comics? KOTOR, yeah, that would be good.
Knights of the Old Republic.
So
I think it did have a comic.
One for that.
What's that?
You want a one-to-one recreation of the game?
No, just anything set in the universe. I mean, that's one of my favorite facets of the Star Wars universe. And
don't they have Knights of the Old Republic comics though? I'm pretty sure they do.
I'm pretty sure they do too.
Yeah. So those exist then.
I didn't know it was a prerequisite that it didn't have to exist.
Yeah, it didn't have, you could point out that, hey, this exists, this is cool, but yeah, let's try to.
But I would like to see, because the games haven't aged well. Like maybe I need to clarify. I would like to see the story of the games retold in comic book.
Gotcha.
Or a remake of the KOTOR games.
Yeah, in a comic book.
Right, I know. I mean, here's the thing though. Like, what's that game? Overwatch kind of depends mostly on those sorts of things, like other media to kind of
tell the story
of the actual game.
Yo, Chris, I got one for you, man. Castlevania, man.
What are you, psychic? I would love that, man. I mean, you could follow the whole Belmont family, and not weak ass Lords of the Shadow, original fucking timeline. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, can I say this? I would want a genie to erase Lords of Shadow from my mind, but I don't want to replay it again.
Just get it out.
But then you might get caught. You might get caught in the rope-a-dope again. See?
Nah.
No, you do Memento. Just don't play Lords of Shadow on your arm, and you go, "What does this mean?" Oh,
that's my handwriting. Oh shit. You know, but yeah, dude, a Castlevania comic would be crazy. You know,
they're already making Castlevania animated series.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, man. Give me that cash.
Oh, can I extend this to what would you like to see made into an anime?
Oh, sure. Go for it, dude.
I want to see Dark Souls anime.
That would be crazy.
Tragic, dark, and episodic.
Yeah.
It gives you bits of story bits of like other people's stories that probably usually ends with them dying.
Get Madhouse to do the animation, man. That'd be sweet.
Everything will all be black line art.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Right. Is that it?
The Division. I think
the Division.
Yeah, because it already has a TV show that's coming, so I would think
What? Look at that shit. I guess that could work.
Not aware of that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Facts.
Yeah,
All right,
man.
That's a UB thing that they're doing. Like they try to develop all their things into little shows and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Couple things here before we wrap up. So again, reminder from now on, as you can see, we did a 3-hour show today. So we don't want to do that often. So we're going to limit everybody to 2 questions from now on. So that way, we get guys over on the coalition asking us stuff, guys watching us live, guys in the comments section. And again, we don't have to do a 1,000,000-hour show and stuff. But and again, all the questions we weren't able to answer this week, we'll answer them on next week's show. All right, so thank you for watching and listening. Leave us your questions in the comment section of this episode here on YouTube or on the Coalition. We'll answer them next time. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Throwdown Show. Links are available in the description below. Once again, I was your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
See you later, guys.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
There's a limited edition Persona 5 vinyl soundtrack coming out, but it's $100. I don't know what the fuck to do.
Don't get it. It's not worth it. Wait, aren't you going to Japan? You could probably get it.
Brian Manjoma.
Watch Guardians 2. It's good. Like, really good.
I heard some people saying it's not as good as the first one. Is that true?
We'll talk afterwards.
Good. Yes, good. All right. Brett Murdoch.
Well, everybody.
And Adam Vale.
Have a good week, man. Everybody. Girls, boys, midgets, everyone.
Go play Wildlands.
Well, yeah, Wildlands. That's a game changer. That changed, man.
They got you again. You said the same shit about
I'm writing a 3-page report on this, and I'm sending them a letter and telling them my feelings on what they did and what they should have did to better promote it, because there's something special there. That's different.
All right, people. We'll see you next time, man. Later.
Later.
Peace.
Peace.
Later, guys.